Chapter 667. In the afternoon, the Imperial Forest Military Academy's field was filled with the sounds of fighting and training. On the side of the forest, Chu Yao was cultivating under old Chu's guidance. If possible, she wanted to step into the Saint King realm and comprehend the King Do flame before the martial arts competition. That way, even if she couldn't defeat her opponent, her chances of escaping would be greatly increased. A few steel shields hung under the willow trees. Chu Yao was wearing a velvet robe as she flew around like a jade butterfly. Streaks of sharp energy pierced through the air, creating large holes in the shields. Within a few minutes, the shields were all destroyed. Chu lightly stroked his white beard and smiled. Yao's cultivation is indeed different from before. The star-picking finger is soft and gentle, but when you use it, its power surpasses that of Chu Huayin's. Is that so? Chu Yao smiled happily. Chu, can my star-picking finger really compare to brothers? The pupil has surpassed the master. Chu nodded. Not far away, Ouyang Yen lightly sat on a branch that was only as thick as a finger, but she didn't fall. She crossed her snow-white legs and smiled. Oh, Lord Chu, don't praise her like that. I think it's just a small trick. There's no need to praise her like that. Be careful that she doesn't become arrogant and doesn't advance any further. What did you say, you woman? Chu Yao glared at her. It was obvious that Chu Yao had long since seen that this woman called Ouyang Yen was very intimate with Lin Muyu and had long since disliked her. This Ouyang Yan's actions were bold and unrestrained, and she didn't look like a woman from a good family. I said it. Ouyang Yan's lips curled up as she looked at Chu Yao with ridicule. I said that this star-picking finger is the wild fox Zen. What, do you want to teach me a lesson? Humph. Chu Yao angrily glared at her and said, I know you are a god king, but I'm not afraid of you. Yo, what an imposing and beautiful deacon. Come. I'll let you have one punch and one kick, and I won't retaliate. I'll give you 50 moves. If you can leave even one wound on me, then I'll admit defeat and call you Sister Chu Yao from now on. How about it? Ouyang Yen rolled up her sleeves, revealing a pair of white arms. Chu Yao was so angry that her shoulders trembled. She gathered the power of the star-picking finger in her palm and said, let's fight. This. Wei Qiu had originally planned to stay here to secretly learn the star-plucking finger, but he never thought that the two great beauties Chu Yao and Ouyang Yen would actually want to tear him apart. In that moment, his heart was filled with helplessness as he said, Master Chu, are you not going to do anything about it? Wei Chu stroked his beard and smiled, no problem. Of Chu, Lord, Chu, I's clan, Yu, Dons, Wei, I's star, Chu, Yao Shan. Swoosh. Ouyang Yen descended from the sky and raised her arm in front of her chest. Suddenly, a flame condensed into a shield. Flame shield. This was one of Ouyang Yan's signature skills. The flame shield was formed from the pure power of the law of fire. Although its defense was far from comparable to the divine wall, it was more than enough to deal with Chu Yao's star-picking finger. Come on. Ouyang Yen smiled provocatively. You said you won't fight back? Chu Yao asked cautiously. Yes, I won't fight back. Otherwise, it's my loss. Good. Chu Yao untied the belt in front of her chest and took off her velvet robe. She handed it to the beautiful alchemist Lan Yen, leaving only a thin dress on. The dress accentuated her beautiful figure. With a light wave of her palm, the saint energy turned into starlight and circled around her fingers. She suddenly shot out and attacked Ouyang Yen like a phantom. When a saint realm expert attacked, the power was extraordinary. In fact, the cold saint realm cyclone forced Wei Qiu, Situ Shui, Bai Yin, and the rest to retreat. Among the generals in the Longdan army camp, other than Situ Sun who had just broken through to the saint realm, the rest were still in the heavenly realm. However, Chu Yao had already reached the peak of the first heaven of the saint realm. In comparison, no one could compare to this delicate and beautiful spiritual medicine division Great Deacon. Swoosh! A cold wind swept past. The starlight pierced through the air and went straight for Ouyang Yan's shoulder. Ouyang Yan saw it clearly. She raised her body and easily blocked it with the flame shield in her hand. With a pft sound, the flame was like a flame that fell into an icy lake. There was a huge difference in strength between the two. Chu Yao's cultivation was indeed much weaker. After all, one was immortal, and the other was a god king who had already formed a young heavenly Dao lattice. Chu Yao did not retreat. Her 5 fingers moved quickly, and the dazzling starlight exploded. In an instant, she had completed at least 50 finger attacks with the star-plucking finger. Ouyang Yan could not help but be surprised. This little girl's strength was so strong, and her finger techniques were so exquisite. Fortunately, she was a god king. If it was a saint venerable of the same level, they would probably not be able to block this powerful star-plucking finger. As expected, no one around Lin Muyu was easy to deal with. This Chu Yao was not simple. Bam! Her boots were surrounded by saint energy, and she kicked the flame shield heavily. However, the difference in strength was too great. Chu Yao was sent flying a few steps back. Ouyang Yan's smile widened. Little girl, you can't do this. Qin King Lin Muyu is such a talented person. If this is all you can do, how can you stay by his side? This sentence seemed to have pierced a part of Chu Yao's heart that she did not want others to know. She became even angrier. She clenched her fist, and starlight gathered in her fist. She punched the flame shield heavily. Bam! Finally, the flame shield, which had withstood so many attacks from the star-plucking finger, finally broke. However, at the moment it broke, Ouyang Yan's jade-like hand reached out from the flames. With a crisp sound, Chu Yao's fist collided with Ouyang Yan's palm. With just one blow, Chu Yao was immediately sent flying. The blood in her body was in turmoil, and she almost vomited blood. Ouyang Yan's palm seemed to be light, but the strength in it was stronger than the previous one. In an instant, more than 20 layers of energy waves appeared, and it directly shattered Chu Yao's protective stellar energy. Fortunately, Ouyang Yan had only used less than 20% of her divine power. Otherwise, this palm would have more or less killed Chu Yao. After all, the difference in strength between them was too great. Chu Yao's face was filled with indignation. You said you wouldn't fight back. Ouyang Yan was taken aback. She hurriedly retracted her palm and smiled apologetically. Sorry, I couldn't control myself. Who asked your star-plucking finger to be so powerful? I couldn't help but want to try it. Didn't you say that the star-plucking finger is the wild fox then? No, I was just joking. Ouyang Yan repeatedly apologized. After all, she also knew that this Chu Yao was Lin Muyu's favorite. If she really touched her, when Lin Muyu found out, she would definitely not be able to bear the consequences. That fellow's heart was very evil. Chu saw it clearly. He knew that Ouyang Yan only used about 10% of her strength and didn't hurt Chu Yao's heart. He said, "All right, the competition ends here. It won't be too late to challenge Ouyang Yan after Yao steps into the god state." "Yes, Grandpa Chu." Chu Yao bowed respectfully to Chu. Ouyang Yan looked around and said, "Where did His Highness Emperor Qin go?" "He didn't say." Wei Chou said in a low voice, "His Highness only said that he went out to cultivate and might not return for 2 or 3 days. He told us to guard the camp and prepare for the competition." Chu smiled slightly. "There's still half a month before the competition between us and the demon race. You naturally wants to take advantage of this time to cultivate and break through. After all, he knows that with his current cultivation, he is definitely not Yang Li's opponent." Ouyang Yan nodded, a trace of helplessness flashed across her beautiful eyes. As a divine king, she knew all too well how difficult it was to cultivate in the God state. Many people cultivated for thousands of years and still couldn't break through a small grotto heaven. There was a gap of 46 grotto heavens between Lin Muyu and Yang Li. How much could she break through in a mere 15 days? She was afraid that breaking through from the 11th grotto heaven to the 12th grotto heaven would already be very lucky. However, on second thought, Ouyang Yen felt that Lin Muyu might be different. After all, he was a freak with a unique comprehension ability and a supreme disposition. Anything was possible when it came to him. The Ice Dragon's freezing pond was a cold pond located 100 miles southwest of Heaven Connect City. The pond was surrounded by snow all year round and the accumulated snow was as high as a person. A few miles away from the pond was the warm autumn. It was strange that the temperature in the Ice Dragon's freezing pond was at least minus 50 degrees Celsius. However, the water in the pond never froze. There had always been a rumor that there was an ancient dragon race living in the Ice Dragon's freezing pond. It was very terrifying and ate humans and livestock. This was how the Ice Dragon's freezing pond got its name. At this moment, the green water of the Ice Dragon's icy pond was motionless, like a clear mirror. In the depths of the pond, faint starlight was faintly flickering. If one were to look carefully, one would be able to see a young man calmly lying in the depths of the pond with his body stretched out. Streams of star power were densely surrounding his body. His eyes were closed, and the surface of his body was suffused with golden waves that were circulating on their own. This was none other than Lin Muyu, who was using the spirit refinement art to cultivate the God's wave. The power of the God's wave was too vigorous and surging. Moreover, Lin Muyu possessed the divine power of the 12 laws. Therefore, when he cultivated the God's wave, his body would often fall into a chaotic and hot state. His endurance towards the impact of the waves would be greatly reduced. Therefore, Lin Muyu found such a method. He found an extremely cold place to cultivate. This way, he could maintain his calm in the cold and his endurance towards the impact of the God's wave would also be greatly increased. When the 12th God's wave was born in his body, it slowly circulated and began to attack the profound entrances of his dantian. Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel a little irritable. However, the penetrating cold that came from the surface of his body allowed him to maintain his calm. That God's wave constantly attacked and tempered his meridian's endurance towards the divine power. This process lasted for nearly half an hour. Finally, with a schwa sound, an energy ripple spread in the pond. This also meant that he had failed in his cultivation of the 12th level of heavenly abode. Lin Muyu slowly opened his eyes. A pair of starry eyes flickered with a faint golden light in the depths of the pond. He sighed. Chapter 668. Could it be that there was something wrong with her soul-refining art? Lin Muyu's heart was filled with doubts. She had been practicing the soul-refining art's first technique very strictly. She had even been lying in this cold pond for an entire day and night without eating or sleeping. She had only been relying on the little bit of air in the pond to maintain her vitality. However, there wasn't even the slightest ripple in the pond. Could it be that there was a problem with Nziruofeng? Looking up at the sky, it was completely dark. It should already be nighttime. At this moment, a strong golden light suddenly bloomed in the sky. Waves of divine oracle Sanskrit echoed in his ears. This scene seemed familiar. It was the divine oracle. The divine oracle's light shone right into the cold pond. As expected, it was looking for him. In the next moment, he heard a very sweet woman's voice. The soul-refining art doesn't only have the first realm. It was Xiao's voice. Lin Muyu couldn't help but be excited. Fairy Xiao, Chu only cultivated the first level of the soul-refining art, but he cultivated it to the 30th level of the heavenly abode. Why can't I? Xiao giggled. Because your godly power-bearer is a supreme being lattice. Each wave of the godly power you derive is at least twice as strong as Chu-Chu's heavenly Tao lattice. Therefore, you won't be able to make a big breakthrough with just the first style of the soul-refining art. Try the second style, like walking into the abyss. Also, I have a gift for you. It might be beneficial to your study of the soul-refining art. Oh. At this moment, a golden light pierced through the sky from the divine oracle's light and fell straight into the ice dragon's wintry pond. The golden light gradually dissipated. It was a piece of azure wood about the size of a fist. It floated above Lin Muyu's chest, emitting a faint blue energy. What is this? Lin Muyu was stunned. Xiao giggled. This piece of wood is called twin flowers. Twin flowers? Lin Muyu laughed. Don't lie to me. This is just a piece of wood. How can it be called twin flowers? Xiao sighed, but this is wood refined from the essence of the twin flower's roots. That's why it's still called the twin flower in the heavenly realm, also known as the red spider lily, and the other as the datura flower. One is called the red spider lily, and the other is called the datura flower. According to the Buddhist scriptures, the datura flower blooms for 1,000 years and wilts for 1,000 years. The flower and leaves will never meet. Therefore, the red spider lily also tells of a kind of sentiment. When the red spider lily blooms, the flower blooms on the other shore. When the flower blooms, there are no leaves, and when the leaf grows, there are no flowers. Longing for each other, but not being able to see each other, they walk the path to the other shore alone. Lin Muyu was startled and was speechless. Xiao seemed to sense his bewilderment, so she said with a smile, you don't think too much. The fate between you and little Ian hasn't been extinguished, and so long as you pursue it, you'll be able to obtain karma. Didn't you cultivate bitterly precisely for the sake of breaking the cycle of reincarnation and bringing little Ian back? Lin Muyu was silent. Xiao was too smart. Almost every word she said was on his mind. All right. Xiao laughed softly. Activating the oracle requires a large amount of divine power. Moreover, I have to bring a parcel for you. Make good use of this red spider lily essence. This essence can wash away the impurities in your body. It is very effective in cultivating the god's tide, at least in the hierarch realm. You must cherish it. Don't underestimate this small piece of red spider lily essence. In the heavenly realm, this is also a treasure. A small piece of it requires 10,000 red spider lilies to refine. The demon emperor spent 200 mortal qualities to help you get this piece of essence. Lin Muyu was dumbfounded. This small piece of essence was actually so precious? Moreover, the 7 luminaries demon emperor actually used mortal qualities to trade. Was there a mistake? Was godhood the currency of the heavenly realm? This was too unimaginable. Thank the demon emperor for me. Thank you too. Xiao, after I ascend, I will treat you to good food. Sure, sure. Xiao giggled. I have long wanted to eat the stewed noodles under the southern heavenly gate. When you arrive, you must treat me. It's a promise. All right, it's a promise. Also, that cast immortal quality is still being refined. I believe it will be completed soon. When it's done, I will give it to you like this. There's no need to give it to me. Just give it to Feng Jixing. All right. I will go now. You, continue to cultivate hard. All right. As the divine oracle slowly dispersed, Lin Muyu was still pondering over Xiao's words. Stewed noodles under the southern heavenly gate? It can't be. Could it be that there are still people doing business in the heavenly realm? However, after thinking about it carefully, although gods could not eat for a long time, they could not go without eating for a year and a half. It was reasonable for there to be hawkers selling stewed noodles. However, she did not dare to imagine a god with a chest full of hair-rubbing noodles. In front of her chest, the energy of the red spider lily's essence was slowly dissipating. Thus, she had to hurry up and cultivate. She could not waste the good intentions of the demon emperor and Xiao. Silently reciting the spirit refinement art's second form's incantation, like stepping into the abyss. It was different from the first form's calm like the wind. Like stepping into the abyss took the initiative, which was to take risks. When one was unable to break through for a long time, they had to circulate their godly power on their own. It was as if they were walking by the side of the abyss. Taking the unconventional path was the essence of the second form. After circulating the supreme godly power in her body and forming a wave, it flowed through her 8 extraordinary meridians. According to the mental cultivation method, this wave formed a torrent. It flowed forward and backward in her meridians. This repeated over and over again, continuously increasing in strength. In the end, it formed an attack on the profound entrances. This was a form of destruction to the meridians. Not long after, Lin Muyu felt an intense pain in her meridians, as if they were about to be torn apart. However, at this moment, the energy dispersed by the red spider lily's essence slowly seeped into her body and fused with her blood vessels. It produced an extremely clear feeling that continuously alleviated the intense pain. It even seemed to strengthen the endurance of her meridians. Lin Muyu was overjoyed. She hurriedly circulated her mental cultivation method and used all her strength to attack the 12th wave. The waves in her body surged violently, as if her entire body was about to explode. The water in the pool also surged violently. Finally, with a "pu" sound, a wave of air rushed into the sky. This was the result of the turbid aura being extracted. Lin Muyu lay quietly in the pool. She opened her faint golden eyes and looked at the starry sky. The red spider lily's essence in front of her chest was still emitting energy. Success! With the help of the red spider lily's essence, she actually broke through the profound entrances in one go. In her chi sea, 12 divine waves were surging and surging. The divine power of the 12th layer of the heavenly abode had been successfully cultivated. Lin Muyu was overjoyed. She didn't think too much about it and immediately entered cultivation again to attack the 13th wave. Her opponent was simply too strong. Yang Li was a peak stage divine king, a super expert with 57 layers of waves. Her mere 12th layer of waves wasn't even enough to fill the gaps between his teeth. In these 15 days, she had to make some progress. At the very least, she couldn't waste the red spider lily's essence that the 7 luminaries demon emperor and Xiao had given her. Just like that, time passed day by day. With the help of the red spider lily's essence, Lin Muyu broke through the 12th wave on the first day. However, the 13th wave's cultivation took him 3 whole days. After that, he used 5 days to break through the 14th wave. The 15th wave was a small watershed, and the red spider lily's essence was about to be used up. There was only a fingertip left. Lin Muyu had failed to break through the 15th wave after more than 10 attempts. She had just stepped into the god realm, and her body was undergoing slight changes. Her newly born body was still unable to withstand such a strong impact. Even her mouth and nose were bleeding, and strands of blood seeped into the depths of the pool. As the sun rose and set, Lin Muyu calculated the time. There was only 1 day left before the Empire and the Demon Race's martial arts competition. She had to break through the 15th layer of the heavenly abode today. Waves rose and fell within her body, and very soon, Lin Muyu gathered a total of 15 waves. Boom, 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 the waves in her body surged into the sky, constantly crashing against the profound entrance. However, the profound entrance was like an iron wall. Lin Muyu had already realized that her attempt to break through this time had failed again. However, at this moment, the water at the bottom of the cold pool suddenly surged, and there seemed to be a low, angry roar of a ferocious beast. A pair of azure blue light flickered from a corner at the bottom of the cold pool. It was a pair of eyes that belonged to the dragon race. It was a dormant azure frost dragon, and there was no aura at all in its deep sleep. Lin Muyu didn't even sense that a behemoth was sleeping 100 meters below her. However, the impact of the soul-refining art's waves was at a critical moment. What should she do? For a moment, Lin Muyu wanted to die. It must be her blood that awakened this ferocious beast. However, she couldn't be disturbed at this time, so she could only look for help. "Acatosaurus, come out!" he roared. Snap, a bolt of lightning flashed in the depths of the pool, and the spatial wall was pulled open in the blink of an eye. Acatosaurus roared and pounced on its opponent. Its opponent also swam out from the depths of the pool. It was a azure frost dragon at least 10 meters long, and its size was 3 to 5 times that of Acatosaurus. It was too terrifying. Roar! The azure frost dragon opened its bloody mouth and spat out thick frost, instantly freezing the crimson crystal dragon along with the water in the lake. F***ck. Lin Muyu was dumbfounded. She watched helplessly as the azure frost dragon suddenly opened its mouth and bit her naturally extended arm. Humph! One of the azure frost dragon's front teeth broke off. It was only a 2,000-year-old spirit beast. How could it eat a supreme god so easily? However, in a moment of desperation, Lin Muyu produced an inexplicable anger from the bottom of her heart, and she drove the waves of God in her body to attack. Boom! A miraculous scene happened. The waves of God that were about to fail actually succeeded. The profound gate instantly shattered, and 15 waves surged violently in her energy sea. Bang! In the depths of the pool, Acatosaurus suddenly twisted its body and broke all the ice crystals. It opened its mouth and bit the azure frost dragon's tail, directly tore off a piece of meat, and chewed happily. This guy actually started eating? The prey is not dead yet. Chapter 669. Lin Muyu let out a low growl, and rays of golden light gathered around her body. With a sudden shake of her arm, she immediately shook the azure frost dragon's huge mouth open. This giant beast actually had a panicked expression at this moment. It seemed that although it was a beast, it was also intelligent. It knew that the person in front of it was not a mortal and could not be provoked at all. However, it was too late for it to regret now. It wanted to leave after acting tough, but there was no such thing as a free lunch. It had to pay the price with its life. This azure frost dragon ate humans and livestock in the vicinity. Since Lin Muyu, the lower universe deity and Queen Qin of the Empire, had come, it was necessary for her to protect the people and get rid of the evil for the people. With a sudden turn of her body, Lin Muyu's fist contained golden divine power. She was still able to move freely in the water, and this heavy punch was aimed at the azure frost dragon's head. Bang! With one punch, a total of 15 waves of divine power immediately blasted the azure frost dragon into a daze. The scales on its forehead cracked, and blood sprayed into the pool. It was usually the one eating people, but now, there was a holy dragon behind it that was shamelessly eating the meat on its tail. Moreover, it was eating with great relish. As it ate, it waved its claws, and in the blink of an eye, the azure frost dragon's tail was reduced to bones. It looked like a fish that had eaten half of its body. It was simply too cruel. Lin Muyu could not stand it anymore, so she simply gave it a quick death. She raised her iron fist and used the 2 luminaries' demonic dance. Bang! The 7 luminaries' profound energy was extremely domineering. Coupled with the 15 waves of divine power attack, the azure frost dragon's eyeballs immediately burst open. Its skull was completely blasted open, and brain juice splattered everywhere. It died on the spot. A 2,000 years old spirit beast was considered a holy beast, yet it could not withstand 2 punches from Lin Muyu. However, the crimson crystal dragon's gluttony was one of the main reasons why the azure frost dragon died on the spot. It was as if it had not eaten for hundreds of years. Lin Muyu raised her hand and took out a spirit stone. It was a 2000 frost spirit stone, not bad. She tossed it into her cosmos sack. It would be useful in the future. Then, she saw the azure frost dragon's beast spirit lingering in the depths of the lake. She could not waste it, she had to refine it. Lin Muyu had advanced from the Holy King realm to the Hierarch realm. Her 7 luminaries fairy gourd and god-binding chains had also advanced to the 12th level. She had not had the chance to refine any beast spirit, but now the chance had finally come. Standing in the lake, she took out the refining cauldron in the form of energy and began to refine the beast spirit. Lin Muyu's cultivation was no longer the same as before. Especially after absorbing the essence of the red spider lilies in the past half a month, the capacity of her sea of qi had expanded by at least 5 times. Her absorption of spiritual power had also greatly increased. In less than half an hour, she had completely refined the azure frost dragon's beast spirit. The skills she obtained were the same. Both of her martial souls had gained the ability to enhance the power of frost. It was probably, the attack of the martial soul would make the opponent feel cold and refreshing. After the refinement, she let out a sigh of relief. A pure spiritual power automatically transformed into supreme divine power in Lin Muyu's body. It was as if she had enjoyed a big meal. The fatigue brought about by half a month of sleepless cultivation was swept away. However, Acatosaurus was still eating. It had already crazily eaten the body of the azure frost dragon, which was twice its size. It did not look like it had been starving for hundreds of years, but more like it had been starving for 10,000 years. Last time, Acatosaurus had brought Lin Muyu a medieval knight sword with abundant spiritual power, so Lin Muyu did not know which dimension this guy was in for the time being. However, one thing was for sure. The food in that dimension must be scarce. Otherwise, Acatosaurus would not have eaten like a hungry ghost without any dignity as a holy dragon. After waiting for a long time, Acatosaurus finally miraculously turned the azure frost dragon into a skeleton. The skeleton glowed with a faint spiritual power. It seemed that this azure frost dragon had indeed absorbed and refined a lot of spiritual power over the years. This kind of spiritual power was very beneficial to human cultivation, especially for those with lower cultivation. Cultivators below the sanctuary realm needed this kind of spiritual power the most. The spiritual power contained in the azure frost dragon skeleton was not inferior to Tao Wu's meat at all. Therefore, Lin Muyu had an idea. She could not waste it. She would bring this skeleton back to the camp and use it to make soup for Sidu Shui, Wei Chou, Bai Yin, and the others. It would be best for these subordinates to step into the sanctuary realm as soon as possible. After all, the sanctuary realm could preserve their youthful looks. Otherwise, it would be too depressing to see Wei Chou and Sidu Shui turn into little old men or old women. Are you full? Lin Muyu waited for Acatosaurus. The little dragon burped and rubbed its big head on its master's shoulder. Lin Muyu also noticed that there was a scar on Acatosaurus's foreleg. It seemed to be at least 10 centimeters deep. It was very frightening. The area around the wound was burnt black, but it was recovering rapidly with the powerful vitality of the dragon race. Lin Muyu immediately frowned. What could have caused such a burn to Acatosaurus? Acatosaurus originally cultivated the law of fire, and true dragons were not afraid of fire. It was definitely not a fire that burned it. Then, what could be hotter than fire? Light. Acatosaurus's wound was caused by the purest light attack. What kind of realm was it in? How could it have encountered such a strong opponent? This wound, who did it? Lin Muyu asked. Acatosaurus explained loudly, "Awo. Awo. Awo awo awo." Lin Muyu was silent. She did not understand a word again. Acatosaurus was becoming more and more independent. The consequence was that there was a big problem with the spiritual communication between it and Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu could no longer read the mind of Acatosaurus. Forget it, it was good that it was not dead. Moreover, it seemed that Acatosaurus had become stronger. That realm must also be able to train it. This was also good. If it could not transform into a real dragon, how could Acatosaurus be worthy of a supreme god-level master? Holding the huge head of the Azure Frost Dragon in one hand, Lin Muyu rushed out of the cold pool with a long dragon bone. Sure enough, with the death of the Azure Frost Dragon, the snow nearby had begun to melt. The snow in autumn was too abnormal. Acatosaurus twisted its fat body and flew in the direction of Sky Connecting City with its master. In the night sky, it was like a big maggot, looking indescribably strange and comical. What's going on? Tomorrow is the martial arts competition. Why haven't you come back yet? You're too irresponsible. In the central tent of the Longdan army camp, Situ Shui stared at a group of generals with a cold face. She was one of the commanders of the army and commanded nearly 50,000 troops. However, because she was the housekeeper of the Longdan army camp, no one dared to say anything when Situ Shui was angry. Even Wei Chou, the respected Duke Wei, was trembling with fear and did not dare to speak. He was afraid that if he said the wrong thing, he would be scolded by Situ Shui. The dignified Duke Wei was scolded but did not dare to talk back. This was not an ordinary shame. Perhaps, he's flirting with girls again. Ouyang Yen said with certainty, it must be so. I've already seen through his heart, liver, spleen, lungs, and kidneys. Humph, relying on his young and handsome appearance and extraordinary cultivation, he goes around flirting with ignorant girls. Lin Muyu is such a person. I really haven't seen her. That's right. Situ Shui looked at Ouyang Yen angrily. Suddenly, she turned from a chance acquaintance to a bosom friend. She said, he doesn't care about the big picture at all. I'm so angry. If he still doesn't show up, I might as well remove King Qin's title. Cough cough, Situ-san, who was at the side, coughed and said, Sister, calm down. King Qin is a supreme title. He's not someone you can remove. Shut up. Situ Shui turned around and glared at him. Thick murderous intent shot out from her beautiful eyes. Situ-san was silent for a moment. A few seconds later, he clenched his fist and said, Motherf asterisk Ker, he doesn't care about the big picture at all. How can such a person be King Qin? I support removing him. Wei Chou looked at him from afar, shameless villain, a wise man submits to circumstances. Shameless your mother. Just when the situation was about to get out of control, there was a sudden bang outside the tent. A heavy object landed on the ground, followed by the howl of Acatosaurus. Chu Yao's eyes lit up. She smiled and said, You is back. Everyone rushed out of the tent. Sure enough, Lin Muyu was standing in the air with Acatosaurus. On the ground was a huge dragon skeleton. Other than the flesh and the skull, the rest of the body had been gnawed clean. This, Situ Shui looked at the huge skeleton and couldn't help but open her mouth. She asked, What is this? Your Highness, why did you only come back now? Do you know how worried we were? You're too unreliable. Lin Muyu stared at her and said indifferently, This dragon bone is the bone of a 22,000 years old Azure Frost Dragon, it's rich in spiritual energy. If you boil it into soup and drink it, it can increase your cultivation. It can greatly increase Shui's cultivation, and you can even step into the saint realm very quickly. You will always look young and beautiful. What did you say just now? Situ Shui blushed. I said that Your Highness loves me the most. Thank you, Your Highness. I like you the most. Situ-san and Wei Chou showed a look of disdain. They then asked in unison, Your Highness, do we have a share of this bone soup? Captaincy and the others have a share. Your Highness is wise and mighty. You will unify the world. Chu Chu looked at Lin Muyu, who was in the air. His eyes were deep and his aura was calm. He smiled and said, Your cultivation seems to have improved a lot. How many grotto heavens have you cultivated? I just reached the 15th grotto heavens. Lin Muyu said with some regret. Isn't it too slow? It's not slow. Chu Chu praised. Very good. Ouyang Yen stood there in a daze. Her heart was filled with a myriad of emotions. This freak actually broke through to the 4th heaven realm in a short period of half a month. If this was considered slow, then the gods of the heaven realm should commit suicide out of guilt. Are you confident in fighting Yangli tomorrow? Ouyang Yen asked. If you and Chu can both win, then I'm confident. Lin Muyu smiled playfully. Otherwise, I can only act shamelessly. Chapter 670. Late at night, the thorny forest in the northwest of Tongtian City was very quiet. The birds had stopped flying, the cicadas had fallen asleep after eating the dew on the tree bark, and the fireflies were flying up and down in the forest. It was so quiet that one could almost hear the sound of the fireflies' wings flapping. A few gray wolves were searching the forest in vain. After hunting in the middle of the night, they didn't even get a single prey. They were destined to spend the next few days hungry. Swoosh, a young man in a dark cyan outfit with a quaint long sword on his back swept past the treetops. His eyes were looking around the forest. Suddenly, his eyes lit up, and he stopped falling from the sky. He stared at a fungus on a withered tree trunk, dragon's tongue, one of the necessary ingredients to make the poison drunk in the breeze. With a flick of her palm, a wind blade cut open the root of the dragon's tongue. Lin Muyu carefully wrapped the dragon's tongue in a piece of cloth. In this way, all the ingredients were ready. You! Chu Chu's voice was heard from afar. Lin Muyu immediately increased her breath a little. Half a minute later, Chu Chu flew over. He was wearing a white robe, and he looked like an immortal who was collecting the Reiki of heaven and earth at night. How is it? Did you find it? Yes. Lin Muyu waved the cloth in her hand and said with a smile, a big dragon's tongue is enough to make more than 20 bottles of drunk in the breeze. Chu, did you find the ingredients for the concentrating spirit drug? Yes. Chu Chu patted the bamboo basket on his waist and said with a smile, let's go back. Yes. At this time, a few gray wolves crept over from afar, looking at the two with hungry and greedy eyes. These gray wolves didn't even know that these two were not mortals, but gods. I'll take care of these beasts. Lin Muyu raised her hand, and a beam of light from the dragon crystal flowed in her palm. No need. Chu Chu smiled and said, all living beings are living beings, there's no need to kill. I'll scare them away. With that said, Chu Chu opened his sleeves, and a fierce wind started to blow. The roars of dragons and tigers could be faintly heard. Nature was very mysterious. Even though the wolves had never seen a dragon or tiger, they could still feel the majestic might of a king. They couldn't help but retreat with their tails between their legs, and in the blink of an eye, they disappeared into the forest. Lin Muyu smiled. Chu is indeed compassionate. Compassionate heart? Chu Chu couldn't help laughing. What compassionate heart? It's just that all living beings are equal. Even the strongest and strongest people can't escape the cycle of reincarnation. There will be karma for killing sooner or later. On the other hand, you've been fighting wars all year round, and you're already used to death. You don't care about how many souls die in your hands, do you? Lin Muyu was startled. She took a deep breath and said, I don't know either, but since the war between the Iha nation and the Empire, I've started killing. Brother Chu and Brother Qin Lei are both dead. Once I release my killing intent, I can't hold it back anymore. I only hope that I can really stop the war and let the world return to peace. What happens after peace is restored? What can you, the invincible king of Qin, do? Ha! Lin Muyu was a little embarrassed under Chu Chu's gaze. She said, I don't know, but I'll bring Xiao Yin and Xiao Shi back. Maybe they'll live like Chu, living a carefree and happy life like Xiao Yao. Chu Chu revealed a gratified smile and said, this is the most valuable thing about you. You can't hold back your killing intent, but you can still control your ambition and desire. If everyone in the world is like you, there will be no war and killing. Yes, Lin Muyu slowly rose up and flew away with Chu Chu side by side. However, she was thinking about all the things that had happened over the years. Qin Yi wanted to be the emperor, so he started the War of the Yihe nation. This war lasted for 5 years. Meanwhile, the demon emperor wanted to unify the continent and reoccupy the territory that belonged to humans, so he started the invasion of the demon race. This war had not ended until now. All the wars were caused by greed and the desire to conquer. Just like what Chu Chu said, if Qin Yi and the demon emperor weren't so greedy and didn't want to be the most supreme in the world, the Shattered Cauldron world wouldn't have lasted for nearly 10 years. The next morning, 1,000 elite soldiers of the Longdan army camp formed a formation and escorted Lin Muyu, Chu Chu, Chu Yao, and the others to the White Sand Slope. At the same time, they also brought along 500 soldiers of the Heavy Artillery Battalion, which carried 10 heavy magic crystal cannons. The magic crystal cannons took a long time to calibrate, so they couldn't hit a flying god state expert. However, they could still be used as a deterrent. Moreover, Lin Muyu had other uses. The treading on snow warhorse constantly snorted. Lin Muyu held the reins with one hand and stretched out the other. Qingyu, who had already fully grown wings, jumped up and down on the wrist guard, chirping happily. Qingyu, go to the White Sand Slope and see if the demon race has arrived. Qingyu spread his wings and soared into the sky. This green swan was already able to form a connection with Lin Muyu's soul, but it was still very weak. After all, it was still too small and couldn't withstand the spiritual sense produced by Lin Muyu's powerful supreme godhead. Situ Shui chuckled at the side, Your Highness, is this green swan particularly obedient? Is it human-like? Yes. Lin Muyu said, it's more reliable than ordinary messenger birds, and it flies much faster. And it's very strange, I have a feeling that I've seen it somewhere before. There's a very strong fluctuation of psychic power. Ouyang Yen chuckled, You're a god, so you can sense the prayers and beliefs of all living beings. Maybe you've seen this green swan somewhere before. Chu Chu, who was standing on the side, remained silent. They arrived at the White Sand Slope before noon. The demon army had already arrived. Half of the 1,000 people were armor demons, and the rest were high-level elite soldiers of the demon race. Moreover, in the distant sky, there was a huge dragon swimming in the clouds. It was a giant flying snake. Sure enough, the demon race didn't have good intentions at all. Yang Li was still wearing the armor of the Northern Heaven Realm. This kind of armor was called the godly armor. The mark on the surface was dense, and it was obviously engraved. However, it was only a level 5 engraving, which was not a treasure. Even Lin Muyu didn't like it at all. If this level of armor was worthy of being called a godly armor, then wouldn't she be called a divine craftsman? Your Highness Prince Qin. Qianfeng, with a sword hanging on his waist, walked forward and cupped his fists with a smile, How have you been? Thank you, Marshal Qianfeng, for your concern. Lin Muyu cupped her fists in return and said, Today, Marshal Qianfeng will also be competing in martial arts. Be careful. After all, there were 2 god state rankers on their side. One was Chu Chu, and the other was Ouyang Yen. Both of them were quite strong. If Qianfeng met them, he might not be able to take advantage of them. If there were no rules, Qianfeng might even be killed. Chu Chu's 30 waves and Ouyang Yan's new heavenly Dao lattice were not simple. Qianfeng squinted his eyes and carefully pondered over the meaning behind Lin Muyu's words. He smiled and said, I can naturally avoid danger, but Your Highness Prince Qin, you must be careful. I know, thank you. Lin Muyu nodded. The two of them turned around and walked in opposite directions. It could be considered that they had bid farewell to each other. Qianfeng's words had a deeper meaning. He reminded Lin Muyu to be careful. In fact, Qianfeng knew that Yang Li wanted to snatch Lin Muyu's godhead. Therefore, he would rather lose than see Lin Muyu killed by Yang Li. After all, they had been rivals for so many years. Not only did Qianfeng hate Lin Muyu, he also admired her. It would be a pity if such a fated rival died in the hands of a despicable god from the heaven realm. Dong, 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 the war drums thundered. The first battle was about to begin. Both sides made way for the center of the battlefield. The area within 100 meters became the battlefield. However, it didn't seem to be big enough. After all, there would be gods in this battle. Lin Muyu looked into the distance. The soldiers behind the Demon Emperor and Saint Master were all wearing shields, and the shields were crimson in color. They were probably bell-sucking rocks. Had they already decided to kill all the deity-level experts on their side? The demon race's plan was very simple. They wanted to use Yang Li's extraordinary strength to defeat Lin Muyu, Chu Chu, and the others. They would be invincible. Tang Xiaoxi was wearing a pomegranate red and milky white dress. It outlined her graceful figure. She held a long whip in her hand. It was the national suppressing whip, a gift from Lin Muyu. No. Lin Muyu couldn't help but frown. Tang Xiaoxi didn't use her weapon when she was about to fight last time. Why did she take out the national suppressing whip this time? Could it be, from afar, Tang Xiaoxi was also looking at Lin Muyu? However, there was no emotion in her beautiful eyes. Lin Muyu couldn't read anything. Let the battle begin. The Demon King raised his arm and said in a majestic voice, in the first round, the divine race will go first. Marshal Qianfeng will fight. Lin Muyu clenched her fists and said, we must win the first battle. Ouyang Yan, you go. Yes. Ouyang Yan floated away and stood on the empty ground empty-handed. She bowed to Qianfeng and said with a smile, Marshal Qianfeng, I didn't expect that we would meet again here. Yes. Qianfeng narrowed his eyes and said, I thought Goddess Ouyang would be used by our god race. I didn't expect you to betray us and become the Empire's dog. Ouyang Yan thought of the humiliation she suffered in Demon Lock Valley and couldn't help but blush. Her eyes were full of killing intent as she shouted, Qianfeng, why are you talking so much nonsense? Let's fight and determine the winner. Qianfeng pulled out his sword and pointed it at Ouyang Yan. He turned his wrist and brandished the sword. His Grandmaster demonic power lingered around his arm and golden divine power surged out of his body. He smiled and said, then come. Hong. Ouyang Yan blasted out a palm attack mercilessly. The raging flames rose and engulfed more than half of the battlefield in the blink of an eye. The people on the periphery couldn't see what was happening inside. The sword light kept flying and pierced through the flame barrier formed by Ouyang Yan. It proved that Qianfeng was resisting this ultimate god expert. Chapter 671. The battlefield between the two of them had unexpectedly condensed into a storm, which caused everyone to be dumbfounded. They couldn't even clearly see the specific moves that were exchanged between them. Ouyang Yan's moves were magnificent and powerful. Raging Flame Palm, Flaming Shield, Falling Phoenix Strike, Blazing Fire Art, and other secret skills bombarded indiscriminately without holding anything back. This, clearly, the Devil King's expression wasn't too good. The last time he caught Ouyang Yan, it was because her godhead was incomplete, but this time, Ouyang Yan actually had a complete godhead. Moreover, her foundation was at the God-King realm. With a single move, it was obvious that she was no longer the same as before. "I'm afraid Marshal Qianfeng is in danger," the sage said faintly. The Demon King didn't say anything. On the other hand, Hierarch Desolation held his battle axe and smiled. "Your so-called divine clan's marshal doesn't seem to be much. Hee, interesting. Qianfeng has stepped into the divine realm and can be considered as a god from the lower realm. But his grotto heaven cultivation is only at the 5th grotto heaven realm. What a joke. Such a god would be laughed at in the heaven realm." The Demon King frowned, but he couldn't refute it. Just as Desolation said, Qianfeng's cultivation was already considered outstanding among the demon clan. But in the heaven realm, there were many people who were more talented than Qianfeng. In terms of cultivation, Qianfeng's strength could be counted with one's fingers in the Shattered Cauldron realm. But in the heaven realm, he would only be considered as a weakling. Yang Li's face was full of a careless smile. He didn't care about the outcome of this battle at all. He only had one goal, which was Lin Muyu. As long as he defeated Lin Muyu and extracted his sovereign godhead, his life would undergo a huge change. Thinking of this, Yang Li couldn't help but reveal a proud expression. The sovereign godhead was a treasure that everyone in the 3 realms yearned for. If he really obtained it, why would he need to return to the northern heaven realm? He could find an unknown place to cultivate for 10,000 years and become a sovereign god. It wouldn't be a problem for him to destroy the entire northern heaven realm. At that time, he could become the divine emperor himself. Why would he need to rely on others? On the empire's side, Chu Yao, Situ Shui, Situ Sen and the others clenched their fists. No one knew if Ouyang Yen was a match for Qianfeng. After all, Qianfeng was one of the strongest experts in the demon clan. He had stepped into the divine realm at such a young age. If the twin walls of the empire were Chu Chu and Lei Hong, then the human would be Lin Muyu and Qianfeng would be the demon. Among the crowd, only Lin Muyu and Chu Chu were calm. From the moment Ouyang Yen entered the arena, Lin Muyu knew that Ouyang Yen would definitely win. Although they were both God realm experts, Qianfeng could only launch 5 waves of God's wave while Ouyang Yen could launch 27 waves. When the two of them fought, the difference in strength between each attack was like heaven and earth. No matter how good Qianfeng's comprehension was, he would definitely not be a match for Ouyang Yen. Sure enough, just as Lin Muyu expected, Ouyang Yen was her trump card. After a quarter of an hour, the flames seemed to tear the space apart. With an explosive sound, Qianfeng's body flew out of the battle circle. Many parts of his body were burnt black and half of his armor had melted. He was in a sorry state. Blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Panting heavily, he cupped his hands towards Ouyang Yen and said, "I lost. Thank you for letting me win." Ouyang Yen floated back to Lin Muyu's side as if nothing had happened. She smiled and said, "Your Highness, I won. How do you plan to reward me?" Lin Muyu smiled and asked, "What do you want?" "Give me your 22,000 Azure Frost Dragon Spirit Stone, how about that?" "Why do you want the Frost Law Spirit Stone? You cultivate fire." "Yes, but after refining conflicting spirit stones, the spirit energy will be absorbed as well." "Alright, I'll give it to you." Thank you, Your Highness." At this time, Lin Muyu walked to Chu Yao's side and smiled softly, "Sister Chu Yao, you take the second round. You don't need to use force, you can just admit defeat. Don't worry, I will support you." "Okay." Wei Chou raised his arm and shouted, "The second round, the Empire's Spiritual Medicine Department's Grand Deacon Chu Yao." On the demon side, everyone was silent. Finally, the Demon King smiled and said, "The Empire's Spiritual Medicine Department's Grand Deacon? Interesting. Shao Shi, you used to live in Lanyan City, you should know this Chu Yao. Go, you will fight this round." "Yes, father." Tang Xiaoxi nodded respectfully and walked over with the nation-suppressing whip. Chu Yao was taken aback and said, Xiaoxi, you want to fight me? Why not? Tang Xiaoxi's golden eyes were emotionless as she said, I don't know you, I will fight you. Be careful. Chu Yao frowned as if she thought of something and said, all right. Buzz. Astral power gathered at her fingertips, and Chu Yao's star-plucking finger let out a shrill sound, just like when Chu Huaying attacked. A disdainful smile appeared on Tang Xiaoxi's face, and she suddenly rushed forward. The power of her flames surged and broke through the spatial barrier. Just as Chu Yao was about to unleash 3 star-plucking fingers, Tang Xiaoxi suddenly disappeared. She had broken through the magnetic field created by the bell-sucking rock and shattered the spatial barrier. In the next instant, she appeared behind Chu Yao, and the nation-suppressing whip turned into a bolt of lightning and lashed out at Chu Yao's back. There was a huge disparity in power between the two sides, and there was no way Chu Yao could withstand the power of a god-state powerful being like Tang Xiaoxi. She let out a muffled groan, and her battle armor was shattered, and a frightening bloody gash appeared on the back of her white robe. Die! Tang Xiaoxi opened her palm, and it was a god seal. She was going to kill Chu Yao. Xiaoxi. Lin Muyu was completely petrified upon seeing this, and she appeared on the platform in a flash. She raised her iron fist, and ice and frost swirled around her fist before crashing into Tang Xiaoxi's palm, forcibly halting the god seal attack. A scorching sensation erupted from her arm, and Lin Muyu stumbled back several steps in retreat. Tang Xiaoxi was simply too powerful. Tang Xiaoxi was also hurtling through the air as she looked down at the bruise on her palm. Lin Muyu's punch appeared to be quite simple, but it had unleashed 15 tidal waves in the instant of contact, and it definitely wasn't an easy one to deal with. We've lost. Lin Muyu said in an indifferent voice, Xiaoxi, we've lost this battle, so there's no need for us to continue. He really couldn't bear to see Tang Xiaoxi kill someone close to her. That would only make her feel even more guilty and pained after the restriction was lifted. Sister Chu Yao, are you alright? I'm fine. Chu Yao's eyes were red, and she walked back to the group with the help of Lin Muyu. She didn't expect Tang Xiaoxi to be so heartless, and even more so, she didn't think that she would want to kill her without any hesitation. Chu sighed, and didn't say a word. It was a very painful thing to have one's soul occupied, and Tang Xiaoxi was bearing all of this right now. The Saint Teacher was nearby, and his control over Tang Xiaoxi's soul would be even stronger. As long as the Saint Teacher didn't die, Tang Xiaoxi wouldn't be able to completely remove the mind-manipulating spell. 1 win and 1 loss. Lin Muyu said in an indifferent voice. Situ-san said, I still have 1 loss. Whether it's the Saint Teacher or the Demon Emperor, I can't beat them. Yes, but you still have to go to the arena. Yes. The Demon King was personally sent out to fight. After taking off his dragon robe, the Demon King wore an exquisite scarlet soft armor underneath. He didn't use any weapons, his palms were his weapons. The Demon King cultivated sinister demonic arts, so he didn't need to rely on any weapons. Standing in the middle of the yellow sand, the Demon King smiled faintly and said, in this battle, let this emperor personally meet the heroes of the empire. Situ-san carried his sword and stepped forward. Longdan Army Camp, Situ-san has learned a thing or two. You are Situ-san? The Demon Emperor squinted his eyes at the unruly wastrel in front of him. You are indeed a young hero. Situ-san touched his beard. Your Majesty, don't talk nonsense. Where are the young heroes? I am just a middle-aged man who keeps a low profile. The Demon Emperor was stunned. He didn't expect this man to be so unruly. Situ-san said again, Your Majesty, you are a god-state expert, and I am just a Saint Realm expert. It is beneath you to fight with me. Since you are called the Celestial Race, you should have some manners. Why don't you let me have a few moves? The Demon Emperor smiled, since General Situ has spoken, I will let you have 3 moves. But after that, I will not show any mercy. Okay. Situ-san held the long sword tightly with both of his hands and poured the power of the revolving heart formula into the long sword. Starlight suddenly bloomed. Situ-san dashed forward, jumped up and slashed down with his sword. It was the initial starlight of the star formula. The Demon Emperor was stunned. He didn't expect Situ-san to know Lin Muyu's unique skill. But he didn't think much of it. He formed a shield with his palms and blocked the attack with his Master Devil Force. Bang! Under the attack of the sword, Situ-san was forced to step back. Fortunately, the Demon Emperor was only on the defensive. Otherwise, Situ-san would have been seriously injured. Good. Again. Situ-san quickly raised his chi and streams of dazzling starlight gathered in his left hand. It was the astral chain, while the long sword in his right hand condensed crimson stardust. 5 mountains descend from the heavens. Like a lightning bolt, Situ-san launched the star chain towards Versatile Emperor's lower body while the 5 mountains descending from the heavens bombarded on Versatile Emperor's chi shield. With another loud sound, Situ-san was blown away once again. His chi and blood were somewhat chaotic. The power of Versatile Emperor was like a bottomless pool of water. At least, with Situ-san's strength, he couldn't figure out the details of Versatile Emperor. After taking a few steps back, Situ-san cupped his hands and said, Your Majesty, I admit defeat. The Demon Emperor is really powerful. The Demon Emperor was dumbfounded. He had never seen such a shameless person in his life. In fact, Situ-san had only learned the first 3 moves of the star skill. He had used them just now, but he still couldn't defeat the Demon Emperor. But Lin Muyu didn't hide her star skill. After she taught it to the generals, only Situ-san learned a little bit. Wei Chou, Situ Shui, Bai Yin, and the others didn't even learn the first appearance of starlight. Moreover, in front of so many soldiers and generals in the Longdan army camp, Situ-san couldn't lose his face as the deputy commander. It was already very brave of him to fight against the Demon Emperor. Now, he didn't even get hurt and escaped unscathed. That would be a good story. As Situ-san walked back to the camp, he thought that he was too smart. Chapter 672. In the 4th round, there was no room for choice. Chu Chu versus the Sacred Teacher. One was a sacred teacher of the demon race, while the other was equivalent to the imperial teacher of the empire. Do you have anything to say? Chu Chu asked. Lin Muyu smiled faintly, No, we've already used the refreshing breeze intoxication. Our people have also taken the antidote. Although we don't know if the refreshing breeze intoxication is effective against a God Realm Master, we'll just treat it as if it's useful. Elder Chu, this Saint Sovereign is our greatest enemy. He's the one who controlled Little Shi's mind. If necessary, kill him. Got it. Chu Chu floated forward, landing in the middle of the battlefield. He cupped his fists and smiled. The Empire's fire cauldron. Chu Chu requests the Demon Saint Master's guidance. The Saint Master walked forward step by step, his palms filled with demonic energy. I've long heard that one of the twin paragons of the Empire, Chu Chu, is the strongest in the Empire. Today, let this old man experience it for himself. Please. Please. The Saint Master calmly stood in the same place. Suddenly, a demonic shadow came out of his body, screaming in the air, forming a domain of darkness, causing the ground to crack. Chu Chu also stood in the same place, not moving an inch. Wang, a fiery red cauldron martial spirit appeared around his body. Flames soared to the sky, the fire cauldron's God Realm domain collided with the Saint Master's domain. The demonic shadows kept on attacking, colliding with the fire cauldron, emitting mournful wails. The 2 God Realm Masters used their domains to attack each other, causing sand and pebbles to fly everywhere, as if two storms were fighting each other. Not long after, beads of sweat appeared on the Saint Sovereign's face. He had never imagined that Chu Chu would be this powerful. Under the constant assault of the 30 layers of the Law of Fire domain, the Saint Sovereign's 7 demons' harmony was already showing signs of losing. If he continued to fight like this, it would not be as simple as losing. You, the Holy Master looked at Chu Chu with a pale face as blood spilled from the corner of his mouth. Chu Chu did not speak or move. He only continued to increase the power of the cauldron. In an instant, the firestorm surged forward, tearing through all of the Saint Master's defenses. He was swept away by the wave of fire like a fallen leaf. Whoosh! Chu Chu's figure flashed as he opened his palm. Flames erupted. This palm strike would definitely take the Saint Master's life. Heh! In the demon army, Yang Li and the other gods stood in the air with their weapons in their hands, watching as Chu Chu killed the Saint Sovereign. They didn't even have the intention to move. To Yang Li, the Saint Sovereign was nothing more than a tool. Now that the tool's purpose had been fulfilled, it didn't matter whether he lived or died. Why should he waste his energy to save an insignificant person? At this time, the Demon King's expression turned cold as he looked at Qianfeng. Qianfeng was no longer at his original position as he charged towards Chu Chu. With a wave of his sword, a scarlet-red sword chi shot out as he shouted, "The Saint Sovereign has been defeated. Sir Chu Chu, please show mercy." Chu Chu was stunned. Qianfeng's attack was not to be underestimated. With a wave of his palm, he bestowed this palm strike onto Qianfeng. Pooh! Qianfeng could no longer withstand the power of Chu Chu's palm strike. He spat out a mouthful of blood as he was sent flying with his sword. However, his appearance had saved the Saint Sovereign's life. Pang! Pang! Qianfeng and the Saint Sovereign landed on the ground together. The demon race was shocked. No one expected that the Saint Sovereign and Qianfeng would be so weak in front of Chu Chu. Chu Chu stood majestically in the sky as he looked at Yang Li, Huang Yi, Pei Sun, and the others indifferently. These people were the real enemies. Good, very good. In the sky, Yang Li actually laughed and clapped his hands as he said, "I didn't expect the human realm to have so many geniuses. This is really unexpected. This plane actually has a hierarch who can condense a divine wall. This is really not simple. Chu Chu, you have given me a pleasant surprise. It is really not easy for a mortal to cultivate the heavenly Tao lattice." Chu Chu didn't say anything as he turned around and flew back to the human realm. The last battle was between Lin Muyu and Yang Li. "Your Highness, do you think you can defeat Yang Li?" Situ Sen asked. "I don't know." Lin Muyu frowned and asked, "General Sun, do you think our Qingfeng Drunken is effective?" "Definitely. Look, many of the demon race soldiers are already drowsy." It was true that many armored demons and high-level demons who were holding their shields in the distance had already fallen to the ground in disappointment. However, the white sand slope was windy, and the effect of refreshing breeze intoxication was obviously not as good as it was in the jungle. Besides, Yang Li, Pei Xuan, Wildness and other gods didn't seem to care about it at all. The bodies of gods would also be much more resistant to poison. Thus, refreshing breeze intoxication might really be useless. "Forget it." Lin Muyu said lightly, "Send a secret order for the rear to retreat. Wei Chou, take the heavenly book with you. Once you move, order the magic crystal cannon to blast the entire white sand slope." "Yes, but Your Highness, what about you?" "I'm fine. Don't worry, Yang Li would not bear to kill me." "Yes." Lin Muyu patted his shoulder and said to Qingyu, "Go to the sky and don't come down without my order. Do you understand?" Qingyu flapped his wings and soared into the sky. "Can we start now?" Yang Li looked down at Lin Muyu and slowly walked down from the sky. With every step he took, a layer of frost formed in the air to withstand his combat boots. The divine power of the Divine King continued to spread in all directions, causing the temperature to drop a lot. Lin Muyu raised her hand and pulled out her stellar sword. She then pulled off Wang Ju's golden cloak and threw it to Situ Shui, who was standing beside her. She then leapt forward to meet Yang Li. The two of them did not choose to fight on the ground, but in the air. Die! Yang Li roared and slashed down with his sword that contained the power of heaven and earth. Even the domain that the blade passed through was immediately frozen. It was as if the entire plane was going to be frozen because of his power. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky. Dark clouds covered the sky, and in the blink of an eye, it was snowing heavily. This was the divine power of the 20th paradise, summoning wind and rain. A real god could control the weather. Lin Muyu gritted her teeth and the flames around her rose. A dazzling ice crystal bloomed in her palm. Her two martial souls instantly fused into the 7 luminary celestial sword and surrounded the star's sword. The celestial dragon crystal enveloped the sword and shot towards Yang Li's attack at lightning speed. Bang! The power reverberated in the sky like thunder. The power of the attack stunned Yang Li. In less than half a month, Lin Muyu, who only had 10 waves, had actually cultivated to 15 waves. What kind of advancement speed was this? At the thought of this, the greed in Yang Li's eyes became even more intense. It must be the supreme godhead that could allow a mortal to advance so quickly. In that case, this kid must be killed. However, he couldn't easily kill him, as that would damage the power of the godhead. He had to extract the godhead while he was still alive. Although it would be very painful, the godhead would be quite complete, and its power wouldn't leak out. In any case, he wouldn't be the one who was in pain. Yang Li suddenly opened his 5 fingers and activated his frost divine power. Suddenly, frost swirled around Lin Muyu and formed a huge cage in the blink of an eye. Ha! Have a taste of my frost cage. Lin Muyu, who was imprisoned in the frost cage, felt a bone-chilling cold enveloping her body. The surface of her skin was quickly covered with frost. How could this be? She would soon be frozen to death. She quickly raised her chi and the supreme godhead surged. It turned into raging flames and attacked the surroundings. The law of fire was one of the laws that Lin Muyu was familiar with. With the raging flames in her hands, she swung her sword and launched the attack of 5 mountains descending from the sky. Bang! A large hole was blasted open at the bottom of the cage. But just as Lin Muyu escaped from the cage, a rope of frost wrapped around his body as if it had a mind of its own. It was Yang Li's move again. This godly king really had a lot of tricks up his sleeves. God-binding chains. Lin Muyu bellowed and the 7 luminaries' immortal swords' God-binding chains came out. The immortal sword disintegrated and the God-binding chains turned into sharp knives that slashed fiercely. In the blink of an eye, Yang Li's ice rope was completely shredded. But just as he was freed, another wave of cold divine power came. This time, it was Yang Li's all-out attack. Lin Muyu had no time to dodge and could only use the dragon blood battle shield to block. Bang! Under the impact of 57 waves of divine power, the dragon blood battle shield shattered. A crushing force descended from the sky and blasted Lin Muyu away like a cannonball. Dust flew everywhere. The divine power domain protected his body as he smashed into the white sand slope. Lin Muyu was in the middle of it. He vomited a mouthful of blood. The difference in strength was too great. Can you surrender now? Yang Li descended from the sky and lightly stepped on the ground with his battle boots. Numerous ropes of frost extended from the ground and tightly bound Lin Muyu. His palm turned into a sharp blade and stabbed into Lin Muyu's chest. However, it was not the side of his heart. It was as if he wanted to keep Lin Muyu alive. He laughed sinisterly and said, "It's too much of a waste to leave the supreme godhead on a piece of trash like you. Just leave it to me. Ah, Lin Muyu vomited a mouthful of blood and screamed miserably. Looking up, Yang Li opened his palm and a golden suction force suddenly wrapped around the supreme godhead in Lin Muyu's head and slowly dragged it out. Instantly, the intense pain caused Lin Muyu's handsome face to contort and he screamed miserably. You! Chu Yao unsheathed her sword and was about to step forward. Yao, don't! Chu raised his hand to stop Chu Yao and said, you will die if you go. Moreover, do you think that you will be defeated by Yang Li so easily? He is only doing this because he has other intentions. Other intentions? Chu Yao looked at Lin Muyu's pained expression and said, you is about to die in Yang Li's hands. Are we just going to watch it happen? Suddenly, a chirping sound could be heard from the sky. It was Qing Yu. After seeing Lin Muyu's pitiful state, Qing Yu attacked immediately. He descended from the sky and pecked at Yang Li's head in a frenzy. You irritating feathered beast! Yang Li suddenly roared and icicles shot towards the sky. In the blink of an eye, Qing Yu's body was pierced through and he fell to the ground in a mess. Lin Muyu looked in Qing Yu's direction and suddenly felt a pain from the depths of his soul. What happened to me? Looks like Lin Muyu won't be able to escape this calamity. Qianfeng held his injured chest and said calmly. The sage sovereign narrowed his eyes and said, Shao Shi, once Yang Li obtains the supreme godhead, you must attack immediately. Do you understand? However, flames suddenly rose from the side and Tang Xiaoxi revealed her nine-tailed form. She knelt on the ground and a terrifying divine power surged to form a fiery force field that pushed the demon emperor and the sage sovereign away. When Tang Xiaoxi raised her head, 2 streaks of golden tears flowed down her cheeks and her eyes were filled with killing intent. She spat out a voice that seemed to come from purgatory, Bastard, I won't allow you to kill him. Chapter 673. Boom! Flames filled with the demonic power of the nine-tailed demon soared into the sky. Looking at Lin Muyu's miserable condition, Tang Xiaoxi's Yi-Hai released a golden light that engulfed her body and drove away the Saint Master's mind-manipulating spell. Tang Xiaoxi, what are you doing? The Demon King yelled, have you forgotten who you are? Get lost! Tang Xiaoxi raised her left hand, and a blood-red nine-tailed claw tore through the air, sending the Devil Emperor flying away like a broken kite. A group of armor demons roared and brandished their weapons, but Tang Xiaoxi didn't want to get entangled with them. Her body was wrapped in a ball of raging flames, and she charged toward the center of the battlefield like a bolt of lightning. She silently stabbed her claw into the back of God King Yang Li, who was concentrating on seizing the Supreme Being lattice. Puff! Golden blood splattered and 3 sharp claws pierced through Yang Li's chest. He could not help but whimper and turn to look at Tang Xiaoxi. Why? Why? Lin Muyu took the opportunity to put the divine spark back into her Yi-Hai. Her body was covered in starlight and her right palm was filled with the power of moonlight. She shouted, Shao Shi, get out of the way. Tang Xiaoxi understood tacitly and pulled out her sharp claws. In a flash, she appeared behind Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu's right palm was actually holding a bright moon energy as she slammed it onto Yang Li's chest. I have the divine wall. You useless ultimate god want to kill me? Yang Li roared and gathered almost all of his divine power on the divine wall around him. Immediately, a sparkling and translucent golden light wall appeared in front of his chest. Lin Muyu attacked without saying a word. It was the 7th style of the star technique that she had painstakingly cultivated in the pool, Falling Moon River. It refined the moonlight for her own use and attacked the opponent with the all-pervasive power of moonlight. Moreover, the specialty of Falling Moon River was to cut the opponent's meridians. As the name suggested, it could cut the opponent's meridians and make them lose the ability to breathe for a short period of time. Bang! The palm strike landed on the god wall. Yang Li's god wall was originally strong enough to block flowing river Falling Moon. However, after being ambushed by Tang Xiaoxi, the god wall was already flawed. How could it block Lin Muyu's full power strike? Her palm pierced through the god wall and sent flowing river Falling Moon's profound energy into Yang Li's mouth. Instantly, Yang Li gave a muffled groan and flew backwards with blood spurting out of his mouth. All the meridians in his chest had been severed and he couldn't summon any strength in his limbs. If he wanted to use his divine energy to recover, he would need at least half a month. Xiao Shi, are you awake? In the raging flames, Lin Muyu looked at Tang Xiaoxi. Yeah, I'm awake. I'm sorry. Tang Xiaoxi mumbled. Kill the Holy Master, or else he will control you again. In the air, Pei Sun, Huang Yi, and the others all took out their weapons. Huang Yi also raised his battle axe and smashed down, shouting, "Quickly save Sir Divine King, kill them all, the martial arts competition is over. Who dares to attack?" Chu Chu's figure flashed, and the fire cauldron suddenly shot up into the sky, blocking Huang Yi, Pei Sun, and the others in the north like a heavenly wall. Meanwhile, Lin Muyu took the opportunity to attack. After killing 2 armor demons with a sweep of her sword, she suddenly opened her palm, and many gourd vines broke out of the ground, just in time to bind the injured Holy Master's legs. Lin Muyu, what are you doing? Qianfeng roared hoarsely from dozens of meters away. He had found that the situation was completely out of the control of the demon clan. Tang Xiaoxi had always been a big variable, and now that Tang Xiaoxi had unexpectedly broken through the control of the Holy Master, it meant that the demon clan's operation this time had completely failed. The Holy Master's legs were bound, and he roared and used his Guru Devil Force to break the gourd vines one by one, but it was too slow. He looked up and saw Lin Muyu shooting over under the light of the sun like a sharp arrow. 7 Devils Combination. The devil shadow flew out, and the Holy Master raised his arms and used his strongest martial art. He could only rely on the 7 Devils Combination to block Lin Muyu's attack. Otherwise, the Holy Master could also imagine his own fate. Clang! The stellar sword's bright light pierced through the light wall formed by the 7 Devils Combination, and energy splashed out. The Holy Master's mouth was wide open, and he looked at Lin Muyu in horror. It's over, everything is over. Pooh! The sharp blade pierced into the Holy Master's mouth without hesitation, and came out through his brain. A blood-red mortal lattice flew out, and the Holy Master's body was kicked away by Lin Muyu. Holy Master! Qianfeng lost his voice and roared. He knew what the Holy Master meant to the devil race, and he was like a central brain. But now, the Holy Master actually died under the sword of Lin Muyu. When Qianfeng flew over and wanted to hug the Holy Master's body, the hidden force hidden in Lin Muyu's kick suddenly exploded, and with a pang sound, the Holy Master's body turned into a cloud of blood mist. Qianfeng stood in the wind covered in blood, and his expression was dispirited. How could this be? How could this be? In the sky, raging flames rose, and Zhou Shi and Chong Fan, the 2 upper world gods who had the law of fire, descended from the sky. They punched and punched at Lin Muyu with godly power. Lin Muyu's eyes were already red from killing, and she didn't care so much. Her 7 luminary celestial sword wrapped around her body, and she flew forward. Her left palm deflected the force, and her body spun rapidly in the sky. The stellar sword carried the wave of the 15th layer paradise and struck Zhou Shi's back. Pooh! Golden blood splattered everywhere. Zhou Shi didn't have the protection of the divine wall, and he was seriously injured in the blink of an eye. However, Lin Muyu's shoulder had also received Chong Fan's palm that was filled with raging flames. Pang! A total of 21 waves reverberated on her shoulder, and Lin Muyu felt a sweetness in her throat as she spat out a mouthful of blood. None of the people from the northern heaven realm were weak, and they were indeed very strong. In the distance, Chu Chu and Tang Xiaoxi were already fighting with Pei Sun, Lu Jin, Zhu He, and Huang Yi. The demon emperor had already escaped, and Ouyang Yen had miraculously appeared in the north, blocking God King Yang Li's path of retreat. Why, do you still want to leave? The beautiful smile on Ouyang Yan's face actually became especially sinister. Yang Li's face turned cold. Ouyang Yan, you want to kill me? So what if I kill you? Do you know what the consequences of killing me are? Yang Li said coldly. This means that you will become the enemy of the entire Northern Heaven realm. Ouyang Yan, you are merely a trash god from the East Heaven, do you dare to offend the entire Northern Heaven realm? Ouyang Yan laughed. In terms of bullying the weak and intimidating the weak, your Northern Heaven realm is indeed unique. Unfortunately, I am now following Lin Muyu, the future supreme god. Hehe, I am standing on the right side. Your Frost Divine Lattice is a cast immortal lattice, how can I let it go so easily? You're courting death. Yang Li roared, and once again took out his ice sword. Ouyang Yan waved her hands, and raging flames rose to the sky. One ice and one fire battle, but it wasn't fair. Yang Li was directly hit by Lin Muyu's falling moon profound energy, and his meridians were severed. He couldn't recover in a short period of time, and the power he could muster was no more than 10%. Ouyang Yan, on the other hand, maintained almost 100% of her battle power, so it wasn't fair at all. Hua, once the flames passed, Yang Li's Su Ran was burnt black. He couldn't even condense his divine wall, so how could he be Ouyang Yan's opponent? Didn't you want the sovereign lattice? Ouyang Yan smiled extremely sweetly, and said, do you know how painful it is to have your divine lattice forcibly extracted? I guess you don't know, but I, Ouyang Yan, am a kind-hearted person. Today, I will let you experience it. As she said that, Ouyang Yan's flame domain spread out, forcefully imprisoning Yang Li, the divine king, in place. She walked forward, pressed her left hand on Yang Li's head, and suddenly opened her right hand. An invisible suction force was activated, and just like that, Yang Li's cast immortal lattice was slowly extracted from his high. Ah! Yang Li's miserable howl was earth-shattering, but the 6 ultimate gods were already entangled, so how could they have the leisure to save him? More importantly, Yang Li's fate had come to an end. He was an outstanding figure among the divine kings, but that was only in the past. Now that Yang Li was seriously injured, he couldn't even defeat a ultimate god, so he had lost the value of loyalty. So, when a crystal-clear divine lattice with frost lingering on it appeared in Ouyang Yan's palm, Yang Li held his head and fell back, howling miserably. Ouyang Yan looked at him coldly, and said, Lin Muyu has the sovereign lattice, and you want to take it for yourself. If this is the law of your Northern Heaven realm, then I will also do a good deed and give you a quick death. Flames spat out from her palm, and in the blink of an eye, it engulfed Yang Li's body. In the blink of an eye, this expert who was once a divine king was burnt black, and he no longer moved. At this moment, the sky thundered incessantly, as if the heavens were also angry. Yang Li's body seemed to have been eroded, turning into dust in the breeze, and seeping into the soil. Was this the scene of a divine king falling? Bang! Zhou Shi's palm collided with Lin Muyu's fist, and both of them retreated at the same time. Lin Muyu's expression was extremely ugly. She was already injured in the duel with Yang Li, and her sovereign lattice was almost taken away, so she could only muster up 60% of her strength. At this moment, she had to fight against Zhou Shi and Chang Fan alone. What was more hateful was that although Zhou Shi was injured, his palm still contained the god's wave of the 29 heavens, making Lin Muyu feel as if the meridians in her arm were about to be shattered. Protect His Highness. Situ Sun, Wei Chou, and the others rushed over. Wei Chou's sharp arrows whizzed past, forcing Zhou Shi to retreat. However, Chang Fan still landed a heavy punch on Lin Muyu's dragon blood battle shield. Bang! Lin Muyu's figure flew backward, and she knelt heavily on the ground. She felt as if she could not muster up the strength in her body. There was a sweet taste in her throat, and she opened her mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. Moreover, the blood was faintly golden. This proved that her body was being tempered, and she was going through a process of being reborn, which was also the process of becoming a god. In the air, Chu Chu and Tang Xiaoxi had also forced their opponents to retreat, and they rushed over together. Moo! Tang Xiaoxi's breathing was rapid. There was a deep wound on her shoulder, and blood was flowing out. It was caused by Huang Yi's battle axe. She quickly held on to Lin Muyu's hand, and asked anxiously, "Are you all right?" Lin Muyu's breathing was weak, and her eye was dim. She was about to faint at any time. She looked at Tang Xiaoxi, and held her hand tightly, and said, "Xiaoxi, come home with me." Tang Xiaoxi did not speak, but tears flowed out of her eyes, and she could not stop nodding. Wei Chou took out a dagger, which was the prototype of the heavenly book of the law of space. He said, "All right, let's go. The magic crystal cannon is about to be fired." A blue light shot into the sky, and the power of heaven and earth was drawn. The power of space around everyone began to swirl rapidly, and in the blink of an eye, the heavenly book had brought everyone 5 miles to the south. At the same time, the sound of the magic crystal cannon's bombardment could be heard. From afar, the white sand slope had become a sea of fire, and purple mushroom clouds rose into the sky. "Your Highness, our plan succeeded." Wei Chou's face was full of excitement, and he did not care about the ash stains on his face. Lin Muyu's mind was in chaos, and she fainted without saying a word. Chapter 674. Beneath the dilapidated walls of sky-piercing city, a small courtyard was filled with charred and shattered debris from the magic crystal cannons. Lin Muyu sat under a cluster of grapevines, sharpening a piece of wood with a long sword and stabbing it into the ground. The northern wind was biting cold, and snowflakes drifted down from the sky. He couldn't help but shiver. Today's work was to rebuild this grapevine frame. Sparse footsteps came from afar. When Lin Muyu pushed open the dilapidated wooden door, he saw a young girl holding a white oil paper umbrella walking over. It was Qin Yin. He rubbed his eyes in disbelief. "Xiao Yin. What, it's been 5 years. Big brother, you doesn't recognize me anymore?" Qin Yin closed the umbrella, allowing the snowflakes to fall on her hair and the fox fur epaulets. "How did you?" Lin Muyu wanted to say something but stopped. The person he had missed for so many years had suddenly appeared, leaving him at a loss. Qin Yin burst into laughter. "Although I died once, but big brother, you don't forget, Xiao Yin is a god. A god is a supreme ruler who can see through the cycle of reincarnation. Big brother, you stay here and wait for me. Xiao Yin will naturally come to see you." As she spoke, Qin Yin tilted her head and looked at Lin Muyu's residence. She couldn't help but laugh. "Wow, Big brother Yu's residence is so sad. Humph, does His Highness live in a place like this?" "Just, temporarily." Lin Muyu rubbed his nose and explained awkwardly. "Temporarily?" Qin Yin walked into the courtyard, stepping on the shallow snow on the ground. "But Xiao Yin likes it here. It's quiet and peaceful. Although it's run down, it's nothing if I can be with Big brother Yu, right?" "Yes." Qin Yin walked up and gently held Lin Muyu's hand. "I missed you so much. Why didn't you come to find me?" she murmured. "I looked for it, but I couldn't find it," Lin Muyu said honestly. "Is that so?" Qin Yin giggled and bent down to look at the place where Lin Muyu had been working. "Is this a grape trellis?" "Yeah." Lin Muyu also knelt on the ground and carefully swept away the snow with her palms to protect the tender roots of the grapevines. She said with some regret, "I don't know if it will survive." I hope it can bloom and sprout next year. That way, there will be grapes to eat in the hot summer. Qin Yin took a closer look and chuckled. Yeah, he'll definitely survive. Lin Muyu simply sat on the ground and looked at the courtyard. She said, Xiao Yin, look at this courtyard. It's so shabby. Not to mention a bed, it doesn't even have walls to block the wind. Do you really want to live here with me? Yes. Qin Yin smiled sweetly. If there's no wall, we can rebuild it. As long as I'm with you, I'm willing to suffer any hardships. Is that so? Lin Muyu looked at her with a smile. Yes. Qin Yin gave a simple answer. She snuggled up to Lin Muyu and rested her beautiful face on Lin Muyu's knee. She said softly, we've agreed that we must be together, yeah. Lin Muyu's heart ached. Suddenly, tears flowed down her cheeks. The scene suddenly disappeared without a trace. Lin Muyu suddenly woke up from the dream. She exclaimed and sat up, only to find that she was sitting on the bed in the commander's tent in the Longdan army camp. The scene just now was just a dream. Mu, are you okay? Tang Xiaoxi was watching over her with red eyes. I'm fine. Lin Muyu shook her head. At this time, Ouyang Yan, Chu Chu, Chu Yao and others came in. After everyone inquired about her health, Lin Muyu murmured, I just dreamed of Xiao Yin, you must be missing her too much. I haven't dreamed of her for a few months. I just dreamed of her. Lin Muyu was disappointed. Chu Chu could not help but turn his face away. He could not bear to see Lin Muyu's dejected look. At this moment, Chu Chu only felt a pang in his heart. The heavens had taken pity on Lin Muyu. The reason why Lin Muyu would dream of Qin Yin was because Qin Yin's reincarnation form, Qin Yu, was killed by Yang Li not long ago. The longing between the two seemed to be able to break the law of reincarnation. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Tang Xiaoxi sat by the bed, tears flowing down her face. She kept apologizing. She knew that she had killed Qin Yin with her own hands. If Qin Yin hadn't died, Lin Muyu wouldn't have become like this. Lin Muyu didn't say anything. Apologizing wouldn't bring Qin Yin back to life. Alright, Xiao Shi, Chu Yao walked forward and gently held Tang Xiaoxi's hand. You were only controlled by the sacred saint. It wasn't your fault. You don't have to blame yourself. No, that's me. Tang Xiaoxi seemed to remember something. Her body twitched in pain, and tears fell like rain. She said in a trembling voice, that's me being jealous. That's a crazy me. I'm a bad woman. I've killed so many people. I've killed so many people. Xiao Shi. Chu Chu's eyes turned cold. Control your mind. You have to be strong. Do you know why Xiao Yin died? It was because your will wasn't strong enough. It was because you weren't strong enough at that time. If you don't want to repeat the same mistakes, don't be weak anymore. I know. Tang Xiaoxi suddenly stood up and knelt by Lin Muyu's bedside. She held his hand and cried, Mu, forgive me. Forgive me. If death can make up for my guilt, kill me and avenge Xiao Yin. Lin Muyu looked at her absent-mindedly. Suddenly, she reached out and touched Tang Xiaoxi's face. She said softly, Xiao Yin and I don't blame you. In the future, you and I will find Xiao Yin together, okay? Yes, yes. Tang Xiaoxi nodded her head repeatedly. She cried like a pear blossom in the rain. Get up, Xiao Shi. Stop acting like this. Lin Muyu pulled Tang Xiaoxi back to her side. She looked up at the crowd and asked, how is the demon race? Did you find anything on the White Sand Slope battlefield? Wei Chou cupped his fists respectfully. Your Highness, the magic crystal cannons had almost flattened the White Sand Slope battlefield. When we were cleaning up the battlefield, we found the corpses of Supreme God Zhou Shi, Chong Fan, and Lu Jin. However, their godheads had been taken away. In addition, dozens of demon race's high-ranking officers were killed by the cannons. Saint Master was killed by Your Highness. Qianfeng, Demon Emperor, Huang Yi, Pei Sun, and Zhu He were seriously injured and escaped. It can be considered a complete victory. Lin Muyu said with a faint smile. Yes. Situ Sun laughed and said, Your Highness, if you hadn't fainted, it would have been a complete victory. Lin Muyu glanced at him and continued, Send some craftsmen to build a steel wall 2 miles away from the demon race's sky canopy, sealing the demon race inside the Heaven's Gorge. Once we've rested, we'll prepare to attack the Heaven's Gorge and annihilate the demon race. Yes, Your Highness. I understand. Not far away, Ouyang Yen said with a smile, Your Highness, I have a gift for you. Oh? What gift? Take a look. Ouyang Yen took out a gemstone that was enshrouded in divine power from her interspatial bag. Frost slowly swirled around it. It was Yang Li's cast immortal godhead. When the godhead was taken out, the temperature in the tent dropped by at least 10 degrees. This is Yang Li's godhead? That's right. Ouyang Yen said with a smile, This is a cast immortal godhead. Moreover, it's a very pure law of frost godhead. Unfortunately, it's not something I can use. I better cultivate my heavenly Tao godhead. I'll leave this cast immortal godhead to Your Highness. For me? Lin Muyu murmured, but it's useless to me. From their tone, my sovereign godhead is already the most powerful godhead in the 3 realms. Tang Xiaoxi and Chu Yao couldn't help but laugh. Can't you be humble? Chu Chu squinted his eyes and said with a smile, I think you should just accept this cast immortal lattice. Such a good thing isn't something that can be encountered in a day. Furthermore, we are in the Shattered Cauldron Plain. A cast immortal lattice can also trigger a war between gods. If you don't accept it, this cast immortal lattice might bring about a fatal disaster to Ouyang Yen. A fatal disaster? Ouyang Yan's beautiful face turned pale. She quickly handed the godhead to Lin Muyu and said with a smile, How is it, Your Highness? I'm very sensible, right? Lin Muyu was speechless. She casually threw Yang Li's cast immortal godhead into her cosmos sack. Actually, Yang Li was a god with a very bright future. Unfortunately, he ran to the Shattered Cauldron realm to fight for the sovereign godhead. In the end, he went for wool and came home shorn. Instead, he lost his cast immortal godhead here. Lin Muyu was a little nervous. She had a cast immortal godhead. Chu Chu calmly walked forward and said with a smile, Do you remember the 4th style of the spiritual refinement art? Yes, it's the 1000 tempering 100 refinement art. That's right. 1000 tempering. Chu Chu smiled meaningfully. The so-called 1000 tempering is the tempering of one's godhead. The growth of a godhead is like a human. It needs to absorb many kinds of spiritual power and nutrients to grow. The best nutrients for the growth of a godhead are godheads. If you can refine Yang Li's cast immortal godhead and use it to temper your sovereign godhead, your cultivation will definitely improve greatly. As he spoke, Chu Chu sighed. The power of a sovereign godhead is very vigorous. The heavenly Tao godhead and the mortal godhead are not worthy of being the nutrients for a sovereign godhead. Yang Li's cast immortal godhead came at the right time. Lin Muyu, refining a godhead. This spiritual refinement art was indeed worthy of its name. On the white sand slope, the moon was bright and the stars were sparse. A wisp of soul slowly rose from the white sand slope. It left the original body of Qin Yu and turned into the body of a beautiful girl. It was Qin Yin. She blankly looked at the mess around her. There were many demon corpses that were not buried. Moreover, there were traces of battle between Lin Muyu, Tang Xiaoxi, and Chu Chu. Yu, Xiaoxi, Qin Yin thought of everything and couldn't help but feel sad. She murmured, "Big brother, you still doesn't recognize Xiao Yin?" At this time, the heavenly realm gates suddenly opened and two gods flew down. One was holding a pipa and the other a spear. They were Qin Ming and Yu Wu, the two giant gods who specialized in reincarnation. But when he saw the young girl's soul standing on the ground, Qin Ming couldn't help but tremble. Last time, he was beaten up to imprison her. This girl's spiritual power was too strong. "Yu Wu, you go." Qin Ming said, "I will support you with my zither." Yu Wu stared at him and said, "Why don't you go?" At this time, Qin Yin raised her head and looked at the two giant gods in the sky. She slowly turned her palm and a few heaven dragon crystals shining with golden light condensed. She faintly asked, "This time, where will I be reincarnated to?" Yu Wu's body trembled. "The ghost Dao. You will become a ghost until the end of your cultivation." "Say that again?" Qin Yin murmured. Yu Wu's face turned purple. "It's the ghost Dao. Heroine, let me say this first, don't hit my face." Chapter 675. In the eastern region of the dragon-shaped island, tens of thousands of protruding reefs covered the sea like a stone forest, turning the entire eastern region of the dragon-shaped island into a secret area. No one had ever explored it, and none of those who had sailed to the east had ever returned. Early in the morning, the white fog of late autumn filled the sea. Less than 10 meters away, the sound of horse hooves could be heard. It was the Iha kingdom. Long Qianlin rode on a green-haired warhorse and wore a commander's armor. The 3 golden stars on his collar flickered in the fog. Behind him was a group of soldiers with bows and arrows on their backs and long swords in their hands. Beside him was a young man. It was none other than Qin Huan, the son of Qin Yi, the only heir of the Iha kingdom. "When will this fog disperse?" Long Qianlin frowned. He could not see through the fog in front of him. Beside him, an adjutant cupped his fists and said, "General Long, the fog will disperse as soon as the wind blows. The wind on the East Sea is unpredictable. No one knows when the wind will blow and when it will calm down." Qin Huan said, "General Long, do you really want to explore the Eastern Sea region?" Long Qianlin nodded and looked tired. He said, "The dragon-shaped island is just an isolated island. It can't accommodate so many people of the Iha kingdom. Your Highness, the eastern region of the dragon-shaped island is boundless. No one has ever conquered this sea region. No one knows what's on the other side of the sea. I suggest that we organize iron-armored warships to cross this sea region and look for a new habitat." But, Qin Huan looked gloomy. He said, "We have mined nearly half of the iron mines on the dragon-shaped island. It's easy for General Long to build a fleet, but this fleet will consume nearly 30% of the Iha kingdom's national strength. Does General Long know about this?" "I know." The corner of Long Qianlin's mouth curled up as he said with a smile, "But I also know that our merchant ships are still maintaining trade with the Middle-earth continent. Feng Jixing has not completely cut off the sea route between the Iha kingdom and the empire. Moreover, I also know that the Marquis of Sunset Sun, the Marquis of Lingnan, the Marquis of Soaring Sky, and the other feudal vassals have not only brought their families to the dragon-shaped island, they have also brought a large amount of treasures, antiques, top-grade weapons, and embryos of the heavenly book. If they are willing to offer up these treasures, we can send hundreds of merchant ships to the port of the Soaring Sky province to trade for sufficient grains and ironware. We can also hire craftsmen to work for the Iha kingdom on the dragon-shaped island." Qin Huan couldn't help taking a deep breath. "General Long, are you really planning to touch Marquis Xiang and the others? No eggs can survive a toppled nest. I think the nobles should understand this simple principle. Once the dragon-shaped island runs out of food, we can only wait for death. Their glory, splendor, wealth, and rank will also come to an end. Long Qianlin placed his hand on the hilt of his sword and said indifferently, "We should be thankful that Feng Jixing and Lin Muyu didn't wipe us out and allowed the Empire's sea border to open trade with us. Otherwise, I'm afraid the Iha kingdom would have been wiped out on the dragon-shaped island a year ago. However, if we continue to sit back and eat, the Iha kingdom will still be wiped out." Qin Huan frowned. "I understand, but General Long, you must never say things like the Iha kingdom will be wiped out, especially in front of father. He's old, and can't take any more blows." "Yes, this subordinate understands. Thank you for your reminder, Your Highness. Go back. This matter needs to be discussed with father and Marshal Ding Shi." "Yes." While the Iha kingdom was secretly planning, the reconstruction of Skyspan City in the Skyspan province was also in full swing. In just a few months, the city that had been destroyed by cannon fire had shown signs of life again. The city walls were erected, and the area was nearly twice as wide as before. The green city walls were cast with silver azure bronze, making the entire city appear much more luxurious. Within the city lord's mansion had already begun to take shape. The craftsmen were busy inside and out. This city lord's mansion was also known as King Qin's mansion. The rear courtyard had already been completed, and there were pavilions and terraces stretching for miles. It looked rather like a king's mansion. Bai Yin led a group of guards in silver armor through the rear courtyard of the king's mansion to ensure its safety. In a small courtyard, a few pomegranate trees swayed gently in the breeze. The huge pomegranates pressed their branches close to the ground, swaying in the breeze together with the branches. Under the trees, Lin Muyu, dressed in black, slowly opened her arms. In the open space in front of her, the refining cauldron flickered incessantly. A godhead wrapped in frost was buzzing and trembling in the treasured cauldron. Wisps of invisible divine power were being extracted from the godhead, and then slowly seeped into Lin Muyu's forehead and entered her EC. The EC was already a world of ice and snow. Yang Li's cast immortal lattice of the law of frost was extremely powerful. It was not easy for Lin Muyu to refine and eat this godhead. In the blink of an eye, her face was already covered in sweat, and the area around her arms was frozen into a layer of frost. Then, it melted under the surging flames of the sovereign lattice. This process repeated over and over again. Finally, when the EC was completely filled with the divine power of frost, Lin Muyu began to withdraw her power. She could only refine so much divine power at one time. This was the limit that Lin Muyu's EC could bear. However, the ice and snow energy in the entire EC only took up less than 1,000th of Yang Li's cast immortal lattice. It seemed that it would take at least a year to completely refine the power of this godhead. Hua! The light from the forging cauldron dissipated. Lin Muyu raised her hand and placed the godhead into the Qiankuan pouch. She wiped the sweat off her forehead and felt that her EC was clear and the divine power in her body was even more vigorous. This was the benefit of the spirit refinement art. She could refine other people's power for her own use. Otherwise, even with Lin Muyu's innate talent, it would take her at least 100 years to reach the divine king realm by herself. Rustle, rustle, amidst the fragmented sounds of footsteps, the graceful Tang Xiaoxi walked over with a plate of fruits in her hands. She smiled and said, "Mu, you must have lost a lot of water during the refinement. Come and eat some fruits." Lin Muyu sat down on a stone bench at the side. She picked up a pear and started to eat it. The flame energy and frost energy on her body intertwined and actually turned into steam that slowly rose up. Tang Xiaoxi couldn't help but laugh. "How is your cultivation of the spirit refinement art? How's the progress? Yang Li's forged immortal godhead is really powerful. I can only refine my god force in one go. I can't rush it." Lin Muyu thought for a moment and said, "Currently, the refinement progress is about 19%. It's still early. Tang Xiaoxi giggled and said, almost 20%, not bad. Don't rush it, it will damage your body. Oh right, since you have already refined 20% of Yang Li's God Force, did it increase your cultivation? Lin Muyu nodded heavily and flipped her palm. Immediately, a golden wave of divinity surged in her palm. The waves were like a tower that reached the sky, stacking on top of each other. There was a total of 19 layers. Wow, Tang Xiaoxi beamed and said, so powerful. You are already at the 19th heavenly abode realm. As long as you work hard, Mu will be able to step into the first heavenly abode realm. Yes, Yang Li's godhead is not fake. Oh right, I have been cultivating in the afternoon. Has big sister Chu Yao returned from the spiritual medicine division? Yes, she is back. Didn't you see her? Tang Xiaoxi beamed with joy. Wei Chou went into the mountain yesterday to hunt a cloud deer and sent 2 legs. So, big sister Chu Yao has already washed her hands and went to cook. She said that she will let you have a good meal tonight. After all, cultivating consumes too much energy. Where is Chu? If we cook the cloud deer meat, he will probably refuse to eat it again, yes. Tang Xiaoxi smiled lightly. Chu can communicate with all living beings. He has already decided not to eat meat. Forget it, let him eat corn on the cob. Humph, who is talking bad about me? In the wing room, Chu Chu walked in with his hands behind his back. He looked spirited and energetic. He looked at Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi with a smile. Lin Muyu smiled and said, Old Chu, Sister Chu Yao is going to show off her cooking skills tonight. She's going to cook a table full of delicious dishes. Are you really not going to eat meat forever? Cultivation is so tiring. How can you stop eating meat? Chu Chu looked helpless. My cultivation is different from yours. What you cultivate is the domineering way of dominating the world. What I cultivate is the divine way of caring for the common people. We can't be compared together. But Yao's cooking is so good. The vegetables she cooks are also very delicious. Anyway, we are going to have a good meal tonight. Yes, in the blink of an eye, the sun set in the west. A table of food and wine was set up in the pagoda in the backyard of King Qin's residence. Chu Yao personally cooked. The table of delicious food was filled with a fragrant smell. 2 maids lit the lamps. A few guards stood at a distance. Lin Muyu, Tang Xiaoxi, Chu Yao, and Chu Chu sat around the table. They looked at the dishes and were already tempted to eat. Lin Muyu poured wine for Chu Chu and smiled, Thank you, Chu, for teaching me and big sister Chu Yao these days. Come, let me give you a toast. Chu Chu nodded, It's nothing, there's no need to be so polite. After downing the wine, Tang Xiaoxi started to attack the cloud deer meat. Chu Yao's cooking was indeed superb. The cloud deer meat became delicious under her skillful hands. Tang Xiaoxi's face turned red as she ate. She kept putting food into Chu Yao's bowl. Chu Yao maintained some of the dignity of the spiritual medicine department's chief deacon. She smiled as she watched Lin Muyu and Chu drink. This long-lost feeling made everyone very happy. Perhaps this was the feeling of being together with family? Unfortunately, Qin Yin was no longer here. If she was here, Lin Muyu was willing to exchange anything for such a joyous gathering. At this time, outside the spatial wall of the Ghost Dao, after several months of pursuit, Qin Yin's spirit was still unwilling to be bound. With a flash of light, she was already several miles away. Damn it, so hateful. Qin Ming and Yu Wu flew into a rage. At the same time, their cheeks were full of bruises, especially Yu Wu. The left side of his face was swollen to the point where he could barely see his eye. Qin Yin, if you continue to be so stubborn, we can only invite the Purgatory Master to take your life. So what if you manage to escape? Can you escape your destiny? Qin Yin suddenly stopped in the air. Her eyes were dim as she said, "Forget it, I'll go with you to the ghost Dao." Chapter 676. In the mountains to the south of Sunset City in Lingnan, flags fluttered in the wind. About several hundred imperial guards stood guard outside the valley. All of their faces were filled with fatigue and helplessness. The warhorses had been abandoned several tens of leagues away. The mountain path was filled with huge, jagged rocks, and there was no way for the warhorses to advance. However, there was no other way. In order to protect Prince Xian Feng Jixing, they could only come here. Zhang Wei had a long beard. He had spent the entire summer and autumn under the sun, tanning like a piece of charcoal. He grabbed a water bag filled with wine and sat on a huge green rock. He twisted open the stopper and drank a big mouthful to his heart's content. Wiping his mouth, he laughed out loud and said, "This mountain is really a cool and relaxing place. It'd be even more beautiful if a few ladies could come and play with us." The chilly arch at the side wore a bitter expression and said, "Lord Zhang Wei, you're having a good time, but us brothers have nothing to do here all day. His Highness Prince Xian doesn't allow us to visit him either. I wonder how his cultivation is going." Sigh. Zhang Wei raised his arm and said, "His Highness has already broken through the limits of the sacred heaven realm and is about to condense his godhood. This is a critical moment, and no one is allowed to disturb him. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless with my fists. Also, who's your name? Go down the mountain and help me get some wine. It'll be even better if you can bring a prostitute back." "Who's your name?" touched his nose and said, "His Highness Prince Xian has already given strict orders. Ever since Prince Qin and Her Highness Yin issued a new decree, the Empire's army is no longer allowed to keep concubines. It's the same for those brought back from outside. Lord Zhang Wei, you asked me to bring a woman back for you. Do you think that His Highness Prince Xian's fists will be ruthless when he comes out of seclusion?" Zhang Wei trembled and said calmly, "Humph, women. After venting, they'll feel dry and tasteless. It's fine if I don't want them. Then get a few men who are good at playing dice for old Zhang to go up the mountain." Oh, Lord Zhang Wei's taste has suddenly become very special. In the middle of the mountains, where the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was the most vigorous, the sky was covered with dark clouds. Bolts of lightning mixed with thunder descended from the sky. The angry thunder seemed to fall on the mountains, as if it wanted to tear the whole world apart. The phenomenon in the sky could only mean one thing. Another expert was going through the tribulation. Ascending from the divine heaven realm to the god realm was naturally one of the tribulations. If they succeeded, they would live as long as the world, but if they failed, their spiritual yuan would be damaged, and it would take many years before they could break through to the god realm again. On a round boulder, Feng Jixing sat in his golden armor. He raised his head to look at the strange phenomenon in the sky and couldn't help but sigh. "Oh my God, I never thought that I, Feng Jixing, would have such a day." The power in his body surged, and his eye seemed to have been pierced by a ray of light. A new domain was right in front of him. Whether Feng Jixing was willing or not, breaking through to the divine heaven realm was imminent. However, Lin Muyu had promised him that his forged immortal fate was still missing. Sigh, this unreliable brat, he could only rely on himself to break through and form a mortal fate. Slowly standing up, Feng Jixing fiercely stomped on the rock beneath his feet. Instantly, the mountain trembled violently. Feng Jixing then leaped into the air, the energy in his body completely erupting, quickly condensing into a storm that soared into the heavens, and Feng Jixing's body was at the core of the storm. That strong wind tore apart the plain's wall, opening the door to the heavenly realm. In the distance, many pavilions and buildings could be seen floating in mid-air, spirit cranes flying in the sky, auspicious clouds lingering around. What an auspicious and magnificent scene. Feng Jixing could already see the god realm. As long as he went forward, he would be able to reach the heaven realm, form a godhead, become one of the gods of the heaven realm, and leave this chaotic world. However, he couldn't. There were too many concerns, too many shackles, which made him like Lin Muyu, unable to leave even though he had a glimpse of the heavenly Tao. The wind and waves in his high were very strong, and a whirlpool started to wreak havoc. Suddenly, a strong sense of emptiness made Feng Jixing feel like he was about to be unable to bear it. His high was already empty, and there was a huge space for a spiritual fate to use. Either he had a ready-made godhead, or he could only form a new godhead. Feng Jixing stared at the sky and felt a little helpless. Mortal lattice, so be it. Mortal lattice could also be cultivated step by step, breaking through to heavenly Tao lattice, casted immortal lattice, and finally God lattice. However, at this moment, a small golden hole suddenly appeared in the sky, and a gentle and beautiful woman's voice followed, "Feng Jixing, take it. This is the forged immortal fate that you asked for you." Feng Jixing was stunned. In the sky, the wind and thunder shook, and the horizon seemed to be torn apart. There was a continuous buzzing sound, and raging flames, thunder, and lightning raged in the sky. In the blink of an eye, the plane's wall was completely broken, and a godhead wrapped in raging flames and lightning came whistling like a meteorite. It was the forged immortal fate that the 7 luminaries demon emperor had created. In the sky, Xiao's voice came again, "Empty your mind, you don't have to do anything, just accept this godhead." "All right." Feng Jixing opened up his hands abruptly, and the wind and thunder in the sky kept on raging. The forged immortal fate came down from the sky with overwhelming divine prowess, gushing into Feng Jixing's body. Great waves soared up in his intense sea, and the power of the laws of raging flames, thunder, and gale raged out. Feng Jixing only had a mortal body, so how could he withstand such majestic powers? He cried out in agony. "Oh my God, what's wrong with the sky?" Zhang Wei tossed away the water bag in his hand and looked at the sky with his eyes and mouth agape. There was a person standing in the sky, and a myriad of divine powers kept on penetrating this person's body. Lightning and thunder rumbled like a heavenly tribulation. "That's His Highness Prince Xian." The chilly arch at the side mumbled. "It's the heavenly tribulation, it must be the heavenly tribulation. His Highness Prince Xian is going to become a god." "That's right, he's going to become a god." The painful process lasted for close to half an hour, and Feng Jixing's intense sea was also in a mess from the bombardment. He floated in midair, on the verge of death, and his head felt as if it was going to explode. However, he was very sure of one thing. Although his intense sea was in a mess, it had been expanded by at least 10 times. A sparkling and translucent godhead floated in his intense sea, becoming the sole ruler of this domain. The forged immortal fate had been successfully integrated. Feng Jixing was overjoyed, and endless divine powers were emitted from his intense sea, flowing to various parts of his body. They were the divine powers of the laws of wind, thunder, and fire. At the same time, as he clenched his fist, waves of divine waves started to seethe. There was a total of 3 waves. Feng Jixing let out a low bellow, and streams of golden light instantly engulfed his body. His eyes were also covered with a layer of golden light. Both his senses and power had been enhanced by over 10 times. Is this the feeling of being a god? Feng Jixing stood in midair, and let out a long sigh, and said, "This is great." His senses were so sharp that he could even hear the conversation of Zhang Wei and the others from a few miles away. Another power also began to emerge from his intense sea, breaking through the void, one of the most basic powers that a god possessed. As if he was born with it, Feng Jixing's figure flashed, and with a swoosh, he passed through a spatial wall, and in the next moment, appeared in the air in front of Zhang Wei and the others. His armor had already been blasted to pieces, and his powerful muscles looked very straight. The power of wind and thunder circled around his arms, and his long hair gently swayed in the wind. Feng Jixing looked at everyone, and lightly smiled, and said, "Now, we can go back." Zhang Wei was stunned. "Your Highness, you are now a god?" "Yes, do you have any questions?" "Yes, I heard that gods can see through everything, and can see through people's hearts. Do you know what I am thinking right now?" The corner of Feng Jixing's mouth curled up. The whore of Sunset City? Oh my god, gods really can see through people's hearts. **T. I can't see through people's hearts, but do you think I don't know you well enough? Your Highness is wise. Let's go, follow me back. There is a group of mountain bandits occupying the mountains in the east of Sunset City, and they often attack the people nearby. When we return, immediately send 5,000 troops to eliminate them. We can't take the people's taxes and not do anything for them. Yes, your subordinate understands. Demon Race, in the Tongtian Gorge. The Demon Emperor sat on his throne with a dejected face, like a lonely king. With the death of the Saint Master, it was as if the Demon Emperor had lost an arm, and he no longer had the dignity and confidence of the past. And the most fatal thing was that the god King Yangli had also died, which made the Demon Emperor even more terrified. Yangli was one of the god kings that the god emperor of the Northern Heaven Realm relied on the most, and was known as one of the experts with the most potential in the Northern Heaven Realm. Now that Yangli had died, the news would spread back to the Heaven Realm, and the Northern Heaven Realm would definitely take action. This was the thing that the Demon Emperor was most worried about. Although the demon race was strong, if the Northern Heaven Realm sent hundreds and thousands of god-level rankers, then the hundreds of thousands of demon race armor demons would just be a decoration. "Father, it's late, rest early." Feng Ning held the lamp and said softly. Feng Yuan nodded, as if he had aged a little, and said, "Ning, is there still no news from the Northern Heaven Realm?" "No. There was no news from Pei Sun, Huang Yi, and Zhu He after they returned to the Northern Heaven Realm." "Oh, I know," Feng Yuan murmured. "Father can't sleep, you go to sleep first. If you see your sister's room light is still on, call Marshal Qianfeng over, father has something to discuss with him." "Yes." Not long after, Qianfeng, who was dressed neatly in the armor of a high-ranking officer of the demon race, walked in, and knelt on the ground. "Father, why did you call me over so late at night? Is there anything?" "Yes." A letter in Feng Yuan's hand floated over and landed in front of Qianfeng, and said, "This is a letter from the Eastern Sea, personally written by Marshal Long Qianlin of the Iha country. Take a look." "A letter from Long Qianlin?" Qianfeng frowned. Why did he send a letter? "You'll know once you read it." Qianfeng opened the letter, and with just a glance, his face was already filled with shock, and said, "Iha country still wants to join hands with us? Humph. Qin Yi, that old fox, can't be trusted at all." Chapter 677. How big is the Dragon Island? It can't support too many troops. The Iha country has already used up all their trump cards. They don't have the qualifications to cooperate with us. Qianfeng said coldly. "No." The Demon King smiled. "Qianfeng, you should put down your airs as a marshal." "Father, what do you mean by that? Do you still not understand?" Feng Yuan said softly, "Our god race is no longer the same as before. A few years ago, we relied on the armor demons to sweep across half the continent. But now, the Empire has forged arrow boxes, ballistas, and magic crystal cannons to deal with our armor demon army. The moment Marshal Lei Chong died, the era of the armor demons has passed. Now, we are being suppressed by Lin Muyu in the Tong Tian Gorge. Think about it, if the Iha country sends a certain number of troops to attack Lin Muyu's Dragon's Courage army from the north and south, what will the final result be?" Qianfeng frowned, "But, the Iha country's military strength is worrying." Feng Yuan said, "Although the Iha country is not as strong as before, as long as they are willing to work hard, they will have at least 200,000 troops. What we need to do is to cut down trees in the Tong Tian Gorge and forge warships to send to the Dragon Island. As long as we provide the Dragon Island with 2,000 warships, Long Qianlin can send 200,000 Iha country's elite troops to Lin Muyu's back. The Iha country is at the end of the road. They won't lie to us, and they won't dare to lie to us. When the time comes, Lin Muyu will not be defeated. Your son understands. I will obey father's orders. Right, we were lucky enough to obtain 3 complete magic crystal cannons in the Battle of Heaven Connect City. Send one of them to Dragon-shaped Island. Long Qianlin's craftsmen are much smarter than ours. If they can develop new magic crystal cannons, perhaps, there will be a new turning point in this war. Send the magic crystal cannon to the Dragon Island? Qianfeng was stunned. Who are we sending? I have a suitable candidate. Feng Yuan squinted his eyes and said with a smile, Ji Yao, the former first marshal of the Iha nation. He has been with us for many years and has become our dog. Tomorrow, Ji Yao will be appointed as the 4th marshal of the God clan. We will send him to the Iha nation and give him 3 battleships and 300 soldiers. Yes, I understand. It was late autumn, and the weather was getting colder and colder. Although the ice dragon's glacial pond was no longer as cold due to the death of the azure frost dragon, it was still a good place to cultivate. After all, the azure frost dragon had resided here for tens of thousands of years, so the frost spirit energy left behind was very abundant. Lin Muyu quietly lay in the depths of the pond, allowing the cold water to soak his body. Yang Li's frost godhead was above his body, and it was being refined by the refining cauldron's fire. The frost divine power was like a ribbon that lingered around Lin Muyu and was then absorbed. Choosing such a place to cultivate was only to maximize the absorption of the godhead's power. Otherwise, if he cultivated in a volcanic area, more than half of the immortal forged godhead's power would be absorbed by the heat of the volcano. Within his body, the waves of the 19th layer of the heavenly abode kept attacking his body, causing Lin Muyu to feel an unbearable pain. However, he did not hesitate and continued to refine the Godhead's power to replenish the divine power in his body. Wave after wave rushed towards the entrance of his dantian at the fastest speed. As long as he broke through, he would be able to step into the 20th layer of the heavenly abode. Beside the shrubs above the glacial pond, Tang Xiaoxi's beautiful eyes stared at the ripples in the pond. She was worried and anxiously waiting. Shao Shi, there's no need to be anxious. Chu Yao, who was at the side, faintly smiled. Ah Yu has a sense of propriety when he cultivates. Don't worry. Besides, he chose this cold pond himself. There won't be any mistakes. Sister Chu Yao trusts him a lot, but this guy is so crazy when he cultivates. He will hurt his body at every turn. Tang Xiaoxi pursed her red lips and said, I followed him because I was too worried about him. It's fine. Chu Yao patted her shoulder lightly. At this moment, waves of air surged out of the pond. In the next moment, a golden light shot into the sky, causing the pond water to swirl rapidly. It was like a cold rain. When the pond water started to dissipate, a person slowly walked out of the mist. It was Lin Muyu. He was completely drenched, but his face was filled with excitement and joy. Without a doubt, he broke through again. Layers of waves of God surged on the surface of his body, a total of 20 layers. Did you succeed? Chu Yao asked. Yes. Lin Muyu nodded heavily. Tang Xiaoxi also smiled and said, I heard that some of the gods in the 20th grotto heaven of the immortal state have the ability to summon wind and rain. Mu, can you summon wind and rain now? Are you talking about the wind? Lin Muyu laughed and landed in front of Tang Xiaoxi. He raised an arm and moved his fingers slightly as if he was playing a piano. Suddenly, a strong wind rose on the plain behind him, causing the branches of the entire forest to flutter and countless leaves to fly in the wind. It was a spectacular scene. It was rare to see such a strong wind in late autumn. Really? Tang Xiaoxi opened her mouth wide. I have also stepped into the immortal state, but I don't have the ability to summon wind and rain. Lin Muyu glanced at her and said, but not all the immortal state experts are like you. As long as they transform, they can summon the waves of God from the 33rd grotto heaven. Also, their demonic powers are a little scary. Tang Xiaoxi blushed and said, this is an innate ability. I don't really understand it. As she spoke, Tang Xiaoxi naturally held on to Lin Muyu's arm. However, Lin Muyu withdrew his arm as if he was electrocuted. Ever since Qin Yin died, he was not used to any woman touching his body. Tang Xiaoxi was no exception. As a result, Tang Xiaoxi was stunned. The disappointment and sadness on her face was very obvious. I'm sorry, Xiaoxi. Lin Muyu looked at her apologetically and said, I'm not mentally prepared for this. Let's talk about it after we find Xiao Yin. Oh. Tang Xiaoxi murmured. Chu Yao looked at Lin Muyu and then looked at Tang Xiaoxi. As if she could see through their thoughts, she smiled and said, actually, since ancient times, love has always been human nature. I know that you love Xiao Yin deeply, but you also like Xiaoxi, don't you? Now that I'm like this, I have a guilty conscience. Lin Muyu did not deny it. She looked up at the sky and said, no one knows where Xiao Yin is suffering now. Chu Yao smiled and said, if Xiao Yin comes back in the future, what will you do? I don't know, let's do this. Chu Yao smiled and said, as your elder sister, let me give you a piece of advice. Since we're all in the Qin Empire, let's not be bound by so many shackles. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Even if you marry Xiao Yin in the future, you can still take Xiaoxi as a concubine. Why? Do you want to give such a beautiful Xiaoxi to others? Xiaoxi has so many pursuers that it's enough to break the door of Prince Qin's mansion. I know, Lin Muyu was a little embarrassed and said, it's just that I've never thought about taking a concubine. At the side, Tang Xiaoxi also blushed and said, Sister Chu Yao, you're setting me up for marriage again. Chu Yao giggled and said, how can I not be anxious when the three of you are so tangled up and cause the whole continent to be in such turmoil? Last time, Xiaoxi was jealous and caused the empire to fall. Next time, if Xiao Yin is jealous, I really don't know what kind of mess the three of you will make in this plane. So, for the sake of the people in the world and the billions of people in the shattered tripod world, get rid of the evil for the people. In the future, when you find Xiao Yin, marry Xiao Yin and Xiaoxi together. What do you think? Lin Muyu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Tang Xiaoxi's face turned even redder. Sister Chu Yao, why does marrying me become getting rid of the evil for the people? If you doesn't marry you, who would dare to marry you? You're so fierce, so willful, so unreasonable, don't I have a semi-excellent score? Let me think. Chu Yao stammered for a while and said, other than being beautiful and having big breasts, I really don't have anything else. Tang Xiaoxi was so embarrassed that she wanted to crawl into a hole in the ground. Lin Muyu took a deep breath as if she had made a very big decision. She said, I won't let the women I love wander from place to place. In the future, Xiaoxi, you and Xiao Yin will be the same. Stay by my side. As long as you can be together, what does marriage matter? This time, Tang Xiaoxi nodded heavily and said, let's find Xiao Yin first. Although they didn't have any clues, at least their future goals were set. In the ghost's domain, the blood-red rocky mountain led to the end of purgatory, although no one knew where purgatory was. Qin Yin was like a group of ghosts, walking on this road known as the Yellow Springs. The ghosts around her were all dressed in rags, unlike her who could condense clothes from the divine power left in her soul. Among the three ghosts walking alongside Qin Yin, one was a hanged ghost with a long tongue sticking out. Another was a starving ghost with a pale face and bony bones. The last one was a ghost that died of old age and had dead fish eyes, looking as if he could die at any moment. Go! On the side, a ghost soldier brandished a leather whip that was attached to his spirit and lashed it heavily into the group of ghosts. He shouted, "Tonight, we'll reach the bridge of helplessness and drink Meng Po's soup. I'll teach you how to be a good ghost in your next life." Qin Yin raised her head and glanced at him. The ghost soldier was immediately angry. "Little girl, what are you looking at?" Qin Yin opened her palm, and a bright dragon crystal flashed continuously. She said, "What's wrong with looking at you?" The ghost soldier suddenly looked like a deflated ball. "Miss, you can look all you want. I'm ugly, just don't dirty your eyes." Chapter 678. In the north of the boundless heaven realm, there was a piece of barbarian land. After passing through several fierce storms, there was a lush forest. This forest was tens of thousands of miles wide. Behind the forest was a dense city. The city walls of these cities were inlaid with black gems. Dozens of divine guards were standing outside the city, holding sharp blades in their hands and treading on clouds. Black Rock City, the capital city of the Northern Heaven Realm, and also the residence of the Northern Heaven Realm's divine Emperor Dongming. Shua shua, two figures flashed out of the spatial wall and appeared in the northern part of the forest. One of them was a beautiful young lady, while the other was a god realm general with a stern expression. This young lady looked extremely familiar. She was Ziyao, a subordinate of the seven luminaries demon emperor from the Eastern Heaven Realm. Black Rock City, we've arrived. Ziyao looked up at the vast heaven capital and said, Black Rock City stretches for thousands of miles and is known as the #1 city in the Heaven Realm. The Northern Heaven Realm's gods are famous for their ability to conquer and fight. We have to be careful. Sun Feng, no matter what the Northern Heaven Realm's divine emperor says, don't be impulsive. Listen to my orders. Yes, Lady Ziyao. Sun Feng was the leader of the seven luminaries demon emperor's 10 great divine generals. His divine aura was restrained and his footsteps were covered with frost. He was obviously a divine emperor who was well versed in the law of ice. The two did not barge into the mountain gate. Ziyao leaped into the air and arrived in front of the giant gate of Black Rock City. She bowed respectfully and said, Eastern Heaven Realm's demon emperor, Ziyao and Sun Feng, request to see divine emperor Dongming. We have brought a gift from the demon emperor. On the city wall, a group of Northern Heaven Realms patrolling heavenly gods took out their halberds and swords and surrounded them. One of them who was holding a battle axe said, We, the Northern Heaven Realm and the Eastern Heaven have always minded our own business. May I know why Fairy Ziyao has come to the Northern Heaven Realm this time? I've said it before. I request to see His Majesty the Divine Emperor and present a gift from the Demon Emperor. With that said, Ziyao's gaze turned cold, and asked, What, is the Northern Heaven Realm going to shut us out? The gatekeeper laughed heartily. We wouldn't dare. Fairy Ziyao is the favorite of the seven luminaries Demon Emperor. She's an important figure in East Heaven. How would we dare to slight her? Please come in. I'll go report to His Majesty the Divine Emperor. Thank you. Ziyao and Sun Feng flew over the city wall side by side. Several patrolling Empyrean gods stabbed their weapons into the black curtain of light above the city and opened a door. After the guests passed through, the door immediately closed. The Obsidian Enchantment, the legendary enchantment that once trapped 3,000 god kings to death, was no joke. Inside the Black Rock City, the mountains stood in the air, and the pavilions were connected, forming the scene of a palace floating in the air. Ziyao and Sun Feng went straight to the main hall under the guidance of the guards. Along the way, countless Northern Heaven Realm gods stared at them covetously. Obviously, Xiao and Sun Feng's clothes were very different from here. They were not Northern Heaven Realm gods. In front of the main hall, there were endless steps. The palace of the Northern Heaven Realm was also the most magnificent of the 4 heavenly courts. There were more than 10,000 steps, and it was unknown how long it would take to walk up the steps. Xiao and Sun Feng looked at each other and smiled. Their figures turned and disappeared. In the next moment, they had already appeared in front of the main hall. Eastern Heaven Realm Fairy Xiao and God Emperor Sun Feng have an audience. The loose immortals outside the main hall shouted loudly. Xiao floated into the main hall. She saw that there were at least 1,000 glazed jade lamps hanging in the main hall, brightly illuminating the deep and serene main hall. The ground was made of a kind of mysterious black stone, smooth and resplendent. However, in the Heaven Realm, this kind of thing was almost like a decoration, because none of the gods here couldn't fly. Of course, except for the servants they raised. The so-called god servants were human cultivators whose cultivation had not reached the god realm, but were promoted to the Heaven Realm as an exception. They cultivated bitterly in the Heaven Realm, and at the same time, they had to take on the roles of craftsmen, farmers, fishermen, etc. Even though these people were the strongest in their own plane, in the God realm, they were the most lowly existences. The people who swept the floor outside were all God servants. At the end of the main hall, a person who was about 30 years old, wearing golden armor and a crown sat on the throne. There was an indescribable heroic spirit between his brows, and behind him was a blood-red cloak that fluttered in the wind in the void space behind the throne. Dongming, the king of the Northern Heaven Realm, an ultimate expert with the cultivation of the 99th level of the God Realm Grotto Heaven. She once fought for 3 days and 3 nights in the desolate God Realm of the Northern Heaven Realm, killing dozens of God Emperor experts, and finally establishing the structure of the heavenly courts in the Northern Heaven Realm. If it wasn't for the existence of this ultimate expert, the Northern Heaven Realm would have long been swallowed by the other 3 great heaven realms. This little girl, Xiao, greets your Majesty God Emperor Dongming. Xiao gently bowed with her hands clasped in front of her. Sun Feng cupped his fists and said, "One of the god generals under the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor, Sun Feng greets your Majesty God Emperor." Dongming nodded, and a ray of light shot out from her eyes. "I've long heard of your great name. I've long heard of the names of the 2 great generals under the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor of East Heaven, but I haven't seen them in person. It seems that your reputation is well deserved. Tell me, what does the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor want to do by sending you to the Northern Heaven Realm?" "Present." "Present?" "Yes, your Majesty Dongming." Xiao waved her hand, and a wooden box appeared in her hand out of thin air. She smiled. "This is the present that the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor wanted me to bring to your Majesty Dongming." Dongming gently opened his hand, and the wooden box flew over and landed in his hand. Opening it, he saw a ginseng that was glowing with a faint blood light. Dongming's body trembled, and he said, "Desolate Field Blood Ginseng?" "That's right, it really is the Desolate Field Blood Ginseng." Xiao smiled slightly. This desolate field blood ginseng was found by the Demon Emperor in the Endless Wasteland. It contains the strongest and toughest power between heaven and earth. After eating it, it can greatly increase one's cultivation, so he ordered me to bring it here and present it to your Majesty Dongming. "Oh." Dongming handed the desolate field blood ginseng to the divine servant maidservant at the side. Although the desolate field blood ginseng was a supreme treasure, it was only useful for divine king realm cultivators. As for divine emperors, they were already unable to refine too much divine power from the desolate field blood ginseng. However, the forces of East Heaven were getting stronger and stronger, and these 2 people couldn't afford to offend them. Dongming smiled and said, "Fairy Xiao, please convey my gratitude to the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor. Men, bring the sea-splitting blade." Very quickly, 2 divinities carried a blade into the main hall. The blue sea storm swirled around the blade, and one could tell at a glance that it was not an ordinary weapon. Dongming grabbed the blade's hilt and gently waved it in the air. A cold light flashed, as if it was going to tear open a person's skin. Xiao and Sun Feng were both stunned. Who didn't know that Dongming's cultivation was amazing? But now it seemed that Dongming was even more powerful than the legend said. This sea-splitting blade was refined from the bone marrow of a giant blue sea beast. It can cleave through the waves and is always successful. I will present it to the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor as a gift in return. I hope Fairy Xiao will like it. Why would I? Xiao smiled slightly and signaled for Sun Feng to take the sea-splitting blade. She smiled and said, "This time, I have another matter to discuss with your Majesty Dongming." "Oh, what is it?" "Please speak directly." "It's like this." Xiao pondered for a while and said, "A few days ago, your Majesty Dongming sent Divine King Yangli, Supreme Divinity Huang Yi, and others to the lower realm to go hunting in the Shattered Cauldron realm, which is under the jurisdiction of the East Heaven realm. The God-State cultivator Lin Muyu from the Shattered Cauldron realm is the sworn brother of His Majesty Demon Emperor. Therefore, His Majesty Demon Emperor sent me here to ask your Majesty Dongming to be magnanimous and let Lin Muyu go." "Lin Muyu?" Dongming suddenly smiled and slowly sat back on the throne. A murderous intent shot out from her eyes. "Yangli was the most talented among the thousands of divine kings under me. Moreover, his divinity had been cultivated to the 3rd level. However, he died in the hands of Lin Muyu in the Shattered Cauldron realm. His divinity was also usurped. This is a disgrace to the North Heaven realm. I hope that the East Heaven will not interfere in this matter. This is a grudge between the North Heaven realm and the Shattered Cauldron realm." "Your Majesty." Xiao smiled in a neither servile nor unyielding manner. "The Shattered Cauldron realm is under the jurisdiction of the East Heaven realm. I hope that the North Heaven realm will not act stubbornly. You must know that the Demon Emperor is a sentimental person. Furthermore, he values his sworn brother, Lin Muyu, very much. So, Your Majesty, please think thrice before acting. Are you threatening me?" Dongming's expression turned cold. She stood up. Instantly, the surrounding cold air became oppressive. Dongming, who possessed the Frost Master God's divinity, was the supreme ruler of the law of ice. The layers of cold air were like waves of frost air blowing against one's skin. It was unbearable. Even Sun Feng, who also cultivated the law of ice, could not help but find it hard to resist. Layers of golden air waves enshrouded Xiao's body. She stared fixedly at Dongming. With an abnormally calm expression, she smiled and said, "If your Majesty insists on acting stubbornly, you can go ahead and try. Your Majesty and the Demon Emperor are both the supreme rulers of the 99 heavens. If you want to try the changes of the 7 luminary stars' transformation, you can go ahead and try." Dongming looked at the upright Xiao and couldn't help but be stunned. Then, he laughed out loud and retracted all of his god power. He said, "As expected, the subordinates of the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor are not easy to deal with. Fairy Xiao, I was only joking with you just now. Since Lin Muyu is the sworn brother of the Demon Emperor, Dongming must give face to the Demon Emperor. Forget it, I will give up on the Shattered Cauldron realm. Let him be." "Thank you, Your Majesty Dongming." Xiao nodded her head cheerfully. "I will pass on Your Majesty's thanks to the Demon Emperor." In addition, the Eastern Heaven realm will strengthen their guard for a period of time and seal the gap in the shuttle plane. Your Majesty Dongming, please pass down an order to your subordinates. Don't easily descend into the Shattered Cauldron realm. Otherwise, they might die on the way. Dongming was startled. "I understand. Thank you for your kindness." "You're welcome. It's what I should do. I will take my leave now. All right. Men, send off Fairy Xiao and Lord Sun Feng. After watching Xiao and Sun Feng leave, an old god emperor walked forward and said respectfully, Your Majesty, is Yang Li going to die in vain? I heard that Lin Muyu is currently refining Yang Li's cast immortal lattice. This is simply an insult to our northern heaven realm. How can we not take revenge? Dong Ming's eyes were cold. Don't say any more. The 7 luminaries demon emperor is too strong. The god emperors under him are more than twice the number of us. There's no need to mention this matter anymore. However, Lin Muyu's sovereign lattice will be ours sooner or later. You're tuning into the Unparalleled Sword Will YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.